almost remaining constant at 110,574 now, with 13,155 deaths, but with no new cases. 104,118 cases in Spain, with 9,387 deaths. And in China, no new cases, no new deaths. The numbers remain the same. Germany, 77,981 cases. However, they've not crossed the 1,000 death mark in Germany. Oh. And then, of course, in Sierra Leone, we had 2 cases yesterday, leaving Botswana the only African country without any cases.
Wow. Okay. This is spreading.
Yes, it is.
But still, the deaths are less than 50,000.
Yes.
Global deaths.
Deaths still just under 50,000.
Cases approaching 1 million.
Yes. We're probably going to see us cross the 1 million mark by the weekend.
We probably will. And of this 1 million, how many have been tested, how many have been positive, and how many have actually recovered?
Active cases, you've said, is 600 and something.
Active cases is 694,000, which means essentially that 194,286 have recovered and have been let to go home, which is what this means. And of this number, even more is that 35,610 are critical. So the likelihood of 650,000 people to recover is quite high if we're looking at the numbers.
Yeah. I was seeing New York was recording over 500 deaths in 24 hours.
Yes, this is what we're talking about. The deaths doubled between the last time we spoke yesterday and now. The deaths across the continental United States have doubled. And looking at states like looking at states like New York and Texas, which are now seen as U.S. epicenters, as it were, are recording double in terms of their numbers, double the deaths that we saw yesterday. It's interesting that we also saw that New York has taken some interesting measures. They now have a ship that has docked at the New York harbor, and that is being used as a makeshift hospital, which will take about 900 beds, and they're going to use that offshore rather, as hospital facilities. So being innovative in that sense, but they found that they have to do that because the health system we have to be honest, in the US right now, it has cracked, it's on its knees. They're not able to handle it as we thought.
I think the bigger thing that's happening is it's health systems basically just getting
crumbling,
swamped and overwhelmed.
Absolutely, this is the thing. And now, just yesterday, I'm looking at from some BBC reports yesterday, is that if we look at Italy, what's happening now is that they're not taking any chances. There's certain people of a certain demographic in age that they're just going around and they're picking them up. They're not waiting for them to present as ill. They're going and they're picking them up and they're isolating them, and then should they test and find out that they are positive, they begin treatment immediately, because we've seen a great number of their population, especially the aged, being affected by this and dying.
Well, so we'll be looking at various aspects of coronavirus throughout this show, the impact we are seeing globally and the impact that we are seeing in Kenya and what we expect to see in days to come. C.T. Muga, today's proverb?
Today's proverb is one that actually doesn't require much explanation. If you listen to it carefully, you can actually figure out what it's saying. The best way to eat an elephant standing in your path is to cut it up into little pieces.
Go, Eric. I know you're trying. Just let it
You
go.
have to give Eric some 5 seconds.
Yeah, have to give him some time.
At what point did it die?
The point we started cutting it into little pieces. There's a saying that is attributed to Mandela, the late Nelson Mandela, and it was, I'm paraphrasing here, that it's only impossible before it's done. Given the gigantic size of an elephant, anything to do with an elephant always seems impossible. Moving it, doing what, eating it. So the graphic aspect of this particular saying is, if you look at an elephant and you can sort of like throw imagination to it being in small little chunks.
Yeah.
And people do eat elephants in case, yes.
It becomes more possible when you
It becomes not just possible, but it can feed a great many people. Yes.
A piecemeal approach to
Yes.
and seemingly insurmountable challenge.
Yes. And if you mirror it to what we're talking about, this isn't the first challenge we've received on this scale. Not really. If you look at it seriously and look at the details that we have, every year we've had problems with flooding in certain parts of the country. Every year we've had problems with famine in certain parts of the country.
Yeah.
And this sort of flooding that we're having now, it seems unusual because perhaps our minds are a little dimmed to the history. It's happened before. The lakes within this country, from Naivasha to Victoria, have done what they're doing now before. It isn't new. If you look at the migration of people who live around the lake and why it is that some of them took a certain perspective in terms of where they're going to live or even migrations thereof, it is because of these waters. So, and these were overcome. They were surmounted. Solutions were found. Even with this current situation, solutions will be found. Yes.
All we need to do is chop it up into little bits.
Chop it up into
and
little
we can-
bits. And remember,
It's easier to chew.
yes, and not every bit of the elephant can be eaten. So the bit that you can't eat, you throw
Toss
away.
it out.
Throw it away.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Get
I
it
love
off
that.
your path.
I like this one. Let's
What?
do it twice and I like
Throwing
this
things
proverb.
away.
I like
No,
this
no.
proverb.
Things
The
that you-
meaning has really gone deep for me today. Yeah,
you
I've
felt
reached
it.
that. Yeah, I've reached
Especially that
level
part
today.
where you think
There's certain
the
you
things
take
that
it
you
up
can't
into little
eat.
pieces. The things that you're not able to use,
throw.
throw
throw
it
it
away.
out. It's not helping you. I like this very much. Yeah, I think this was for me today.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Preach, preacher.
yeah.
Let's take a look at the headlines. The Standard, how I beat COVID-19. This is talking to Brenda Cherotich, the first Kenyan to test positive for coronavirus. She was talking about her battle with the disease and urges the public to heed safety directives as a number of infections shot up by 22 yesterday. We now stand at 81. She says, well, she arrived from the country, from the US via London. And then after going to Rongai and staying there for a couple of hours, she started feeling, hii mwili si yangu. Presented herself to the Mbagathi hospital. The staff took her seriously. They gave her a mask the moment she told them that she had gone through London. It was interesting to see, them come out, Brenda and Brian, and speak about what they've gone through. And they were looking very jovial and well prepped for the interviews.
Aha. There's the adjective. Well prepped.
Yeah.
By, whatever do you mean by this?
That they were prepared.
Okay.
That they were not just caught, flat-footed and
Okay.
unawares.
All right.
They were aware that, from tomorrow, we're going to have some media appearances. So put your story together. I mean, don't mix yourself up. She's a beauty queen. She's gone through some basic training in public speaking. So maybe she thought she wanted to apply it here. You could see that Brian has not gone through that kind of training.
He's not a beauty king.
No. I didn't say that. No, you did. All right. Well, Brian has not participated in any beauty pageant, not anything that we know of.
I'm
looking
not
at you,
getting
Sid.
caught up in that conversation.
Not of beauty. I'm just talking about them and coming out and their story and
my
what they were telling
My
you.
participation will be through listening. I'm going to listen to what
You're going to
saying.
listen to everything. you
I'm
say.
listening to what you're saying. But it is a good story when you can actually publicize, you can publish, you can talk about 2 cases of individuals who tested positive with COVID-19 and are now well.
Yep.
Let's follow them up and see how they fare, because a lot of people are basing their hope on these 2.
That's true. Siti, you're throwing these things out today like gems, man. Gee, a lot of people are basing their hopes on these 2. So you can imagine a lot of people are looking at them and saying,
If
they've
they
been
did.
able to survive. I can too. Right. And they talk about, when you're ill, and they say quite a high percentage of your healing or towards your healing is a positive mindset outlook that really helps in the healing process. And even for people who've not been infected right now, a lot of the psyche is, or the psychological mindset is quite low. Right now, people have this sense of heaviness. If you talk to people like, oh, this virus seems to have permeated everything about our society, our economy, the government, everything. And to have a positive outlook, to be healed mentally per se, could come about from this, that some two people who were down and out are really now up and about, and say, then, okay, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's a silver lining on this cloud. So even for those who've not been infected, people who are still feeling really down can say, oh, wow, okay, people have been healed. The country could be healed, kind of thing.
Yep.
In fact, personal testimonies actually play a very important role in any such situation, especially if you have a pandemic and people are not certain about it. Remember, we couldn't put a face to the infections before. Now we can.
Now we can.
Yeah.
And it's not just infections, it's not just testing positive, but to also healing.
Healing.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's very good, especially when our first story is on healing,
Absolutely.
more than being of death.
Absolutely.
It's very, very, very important. It's a very good thing. And I think them coming out and giving their experience and saying, this is what I was going through, this is how I was treated in the hospital, this is what I was feeling, this is how I went through the entire period in isolation. It's important. And this is where I say the government has done very well. This was a very good thing,
And yes, and consider
ahead of what is coming.
Look at the positive testimony of how she was received. It means there were people who are not only prepped, as you put it, trained, but
they
they
were
knew
prepared.
what to do.
Yep. They were prepared.
They knew what to do.
The moment she walked in, they were like, umetoka wapi? London. All right. So here, first of all, wear the mask. Let's start
And learn a
talking.
story.
And learn a story. All right. Going to testing. Tests come positive. Well, at some point, I was a bit surprised when she was on TV saying that she saw on the telly the minister announcing that we now have our first case. And she's sitting there and she's saying, she's a 27-year-old lady, Kenyan lady, arrived from the US via London. And she's thinking that, oh my
Hold
God.
on, that's me.
That's me. I'm positive. She didn't know. If we go by her story, she hadn't been told yet the result of her test. So she was seeing it for the first time there. And from that point, she went frantic for a moment. And then, of course, the nurses came. They started talking to her, telling her, no, come on, relax. You be easy. You'll be able to conquer this. With time, she recovered mentally.
Yep.
And she was able to fight it. Very good story. Also reminding everybody that at least 95% of people who are getting this thing are recovering.
Yeah.
So even if we get it, the higher the chances are that we are going to recover.
I think if we, I think
Please.
even as we do talk about everything surrounding this, because it's important to give out that information, whether it's poor showing, whatever it is, it's also very important then to talk about the wins in this, and some of the positive aspects, outlook of all of this. I think that's very important as well.
Consider also that when it descended on us and it became a reality that HIV was a pandemic, the story around HIV at that point in time was
Death.
Yes, it was. It was gloom, doom. And the issue was even the antiretrovirals, you were given a time space. It started with 5 years, then you told you could live up to 10 years, then you told you could live up to 15 years. And then it got to a point where that didn't matter anymore. You just lived.
Yep.
Yeah.
The 0, 5, 10, but it also showed the progression of understanding of the disease. And also showed the progression of the fight against the disease.
Yeah.
At every stage, you see, and this wasn't heralded adequately. Progress was being made. That's why you're able to move from 5 to 10 to 15, to the point where we're now at a point where you can be on ARVs, and even the sensitive tests, you will not be able to have any indication of antibody activity that would render you to be considered positive. Meaning, you'll test and there's nothing.
There's nothing.
But you still have the virus. Now, it's progress that took a long time. And also, when you're the story you're talking that you mentioned regarding Italy, for the longest time, people would test the viral load. You determine if the viral activity in this person's body is at a certain level. Then you put them on ARVs. Before then, you simply put them on some heavy-duty, powerful vitamins and something called Septrin, a lovely, broad-based antibiotic, just to counter anything. And then they kept raising it. It was 200, 500. Then you get to a point and said, test and treat.
Immediately.
Yes. If you're positive, immediately.
Go into
and the
treatment.
reason was they found, when you did that, they were the contraindications and the, should we say, the alignment that the drugs would have with your body. And some of the effects were adverse. So they realized that you want someone to take it as soon as they possibly can when they're still,
strong.
Yes.
To
You
deal
don't
with
want
it.
to wait.
No, you don't wait. This thing was waiting and determining and what have you. And also remember, when you put someone on medication, you reduce the viral load, which also means you reduce chances of them being able to infect other people.
Yep.
So all these things, I'm now packaging it in 2 sentences as though it happened at once. It didn't.
Took time.
Over time.
It went, yes.
19 minutes after 6 o'clock. This is a situation on Kenya's biggest conversation. We're taking a look at the headlines. Remember, wherever you are, you can access the Standard. Just download the Standard e-paper app from Google Play Store and Apple App Store. Just one subscription fee you can choose. Once you download the app, you can choose whether you want to have a weekly subscription, monthly, quarterly, or annually. And you'll have access to the Standard newspaper and all the other Standard publications from wherever you are across the globe. Good morning.
24/7 around the world, non-stop.
It's 17 degrees in Nairobi, likely to be a clear morning today and partly cloudy conditions following later on. Give you more details of that though, with highs of 27 and lows of 17. It's clear in Nakuru as well at 14 degrees, highs of 28 and lows of 14, beg your pardon. In Nyeri at 16 degrees, clear skies this morning. A chance of showers in the afternoon though, with highs of 26 and lows of 15. In Eldoret at 13 degrees, it's clear skies and partly cloudy conditions later on, with highs of 26 and lows of 13. Clear skies in Kisumu at 20 degrees today, partly cloudy conditions will follow, with highs of 31 and lows of 20. In Malindi at 28 degrees, it's partly cloudy, showers expected in the afternoon, with highs of 33 and lows of 20. Taking a look then to Mombasa at 27 degrees. It's mostly cloudy conditions, opening up to rain in the afternoon, then with highs of 33 and lows of 22. Step into East Africa and it's fog and haze in Dar es Salaam this morning at 26 degrees, giving way to some thunderstorms later on with highs of 31 and lows of 24. In Kampala at 21 degrees, it's partly cloudy. Through the day, highs of 28 and lows of 21. In Johannesburg at 11 degrees, it's clear skies and rain expected with highs of 17 and lows of 9. Likely to be chilly there today. In Lagos at 27 degrees, it's clear skies for the most part of the morning, entering into cloudy conditions later with highs of 34 and lows of 26. In Paris, it's 4 degrees and clear skies today, highs of 12 and lows of 3. Looking into New York at 9 degrees, clear skies all through, highs of 13 and lows of 4. And finally in London at 7 degrees, it's cloudy conditions throughout today with highs of 13 and lows of 4.
Spice FM. Spice up your life.
23 past 6. Good morning. Thank you very much for tuning in to The Situation Room. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, broadcasting on Spice FM, www.spicefm.co.ke, Spice FM KE, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We're taking a look at the headlines. The other headline in the Standard is why MCAs want to kick Waiguru out. Let's talk about that in a little while. What do you have as a headline in the Nation?
All right. Yes, again, we see virus cases jump to 81. However, let's look at education, whereby Kupet Chief Akello Missouri tells the Ministry of Education, postpone KCPE, KCSE exams. The environment is not conducive for examinations set for October and November, following the outbreak of COVID-19 and closure of schools thereafter. So according to Missouri, he says that this is not possible. We cannot test students. We've already had a break in learning, and then we're going to come back having been a month behind. This is the time now where schools should have been closing for the Easter spring holiday, as it were.
Yep.
And it's likely that learners are not going to go back to school for at least another month, from what we are seeing. From all indications, they may not be in school for another month. So they're already going to be set back 2 months. It is then not possible to test them in another 5 months over where they've lost 2 months of learning. He says that the environment is not conducive again, and the Ministry of Education and the Kenya National Examinations Council must postpone the national examinations immediately. He said that the anxiety in the school system will not allow the examinations to be administered on schedule. Last month, the schools were closed for 30 days to check the spread of the virus. So we're getting round about day 30, and it doesn't look like things are going to abate right now.
Yep.
The examination papers are printed in the UK, and the lockdown will disrupt the practicals and make it difficult to covering the syllabus as scheduled. So of course we know it's not just teachers getting into school and teaching whatever they want. There's a syllabus and there's a schedule to which they must follow. Already a month behind. If they were to open schools today, they would be on holiday for another 3 weeks. Getting back into school, they would need a month to catch up. So from what he's saying, and from what I believe the unions have agreed upon, it is not possible then for them to be able to catch on. In terms of suggested timelines, of course, nobody's saying anything right now. But definitely something major to consider when it comes
Something
to
has to
education. Something has to give. He says, we recognize that given the novelty and speed of transmission of the disease, no government can effectively shield its people from COVID-19. However, the union is concerned that the government's response to the pandemic is not dynamic enough, and saying that it must constantly assess the situation and address the challenges. Another thing that he points out, which I find interesting, is that poor families have also been left out of the distance learning platforms that have been rolled out by schools and colleges through television, radio, and the internet. Given that many families cannot afford computers and the internet, learning institutions should take, or radios and TVs,
Yeah.
right? Learning institutions should take equity into consideration in implementing distance learning. So it seems that it's upper class, middle class even, some don't have access to this. The homework that's being sent every day, the learning that's being done on radio and television, they're not able to access. So how are you going to test?
I think he speaks of, if you look at 1.9, those who were registered for national exams this year, 1.9 million, there's a huge percentage of this who come from areas where they don't have access to even everything that has been rolled out by KICD.
Yep.
So yes, there's radio learning, but you're at home. Do you have access to a radio? Do you have access to a TV? Do you have? Of course, you don't have access to internet. All these things are things to consider.
Absolutely.
For very many, over 100,000 or at least hundreds of thousands of students.
Hundreds of thousands of students, for sure. And you have to look at all of that. You even have those who are in the British system, which is the IGCSE, who will not sit their exams in May right now, if all is being taken into consideration. Because those exams come off the UK schedule, for whom they've shut down operations as well for now.
IGCSE is not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Let them just, announce it early enough so people know what to do. It's not going to happen. We're in April.
Yeah.
Exam is in May.
It's in May.
Very many people in many parts of the world, especially in Europe, have not been to school for 2-3 months.
Yep.
Come on.
It's interesting because this doesn't just, the challenge is not just at the primary and secondary level, but University of Nairobi students are uneasy over digital classes. A lot of lecturers and professors are now administering, learning through the digital platform. And many of them say that there is unease. between the students and the management of the University of Nairobi over the online teaching that is meant to ensure that learning goes on despite the coronavirus pandemic, which led to the closure of all learning institutions indefinitely. Most of them spoke of the record of fear of victimization, expressed that while the move is well thought out, there are logistical challenges that might prevent some students from benefiting from the classes. So this is the same thing. Not everybody has access to the internet. Not everybody then can be in a place where you can maybe get into a cyber cafe. And then they state that the curfew also has come into place. So then when are you going to be able
this thing
to...
really far.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. But consider all these things cannot be possible if there's no electricity or access to it.
There you go. And this is it's interesting they said, because that was the next thing that they talk about. Some of them don't have access to electricity. What digital online learning are you going to do?
It is argued that some say it's 63% of Kenyans have access to electricity. Some say it is 50%. Now, having access to electricity is one thing. It doesn't mean you have it.
Yep.
It just means
It's nearby.
It's close. Yes. Now, for this to actually work in a situation where there was no coronavirus, you could say there could be group learning in school.
Yeah.
That now can't happen.
Go to social halls, go
Yes,
to cyber
it could
cafes.
happen.
Go to
Now that can happen
Yeah.
because of the coronavirus. And then remember, there was the promise of laptops to students. Okay. Some of these things, remember, many schools, by the way, for the longest time have had radios. And if I recall, now this is now an age thing, previous century thing sort of thing. Okay. Even classrooms had speakers where certain lessons could be heard over the radio.
Over the radio.
From the headmaster's office, it would be transmitted in the classes that needed.
You were in a high-tech school, but in those days, yes.
Actually,
Age thing, but also class thing, boss.
Actually, no, it was a government school, really. Yes, it just happened to be in town. But one of the things that people, why, for instance, KBC had vernacular radio stations, and it's because they understood that people listened. I mean, they were on for just a short period of time, perhaps in the evening.
Yeah.
And usually it's to announce deaths. And maybe just some government announcement. But
Harambes.
yes, but the education sector in the mornings was always available. And radios were available. If you think of the reach that KBC had, even in the early days after independence, it was vast.
Shortwave across the country.
Yes, exactly.
And every school had a radio.
Yes.
And you knew, I mean, if it's English for standard 5,
Yes.
then it's the radio is taken to.
Yeah.
You guys all huddled together in one class.
And you
And
listen.
listen. Or it's piped into the classroom.
Now think, we're talking about 50, God knows how many years later. Okay? And this, you can't, I haven't heard or read of a story where this has been improved upon. And yet this is very basic infrastructure. It's not even complicated.
Nope.
That could have assisted. Now, this is where we pick it up and say, okay, reality, this is where we are.
Yeah.
So what do we do next? This one, we don't need to do too much talking. What do you need to do to ensure that this becomes a reality immediately after this coronavirus has come to an end? Because it's not even expensive.
Good. Having a radio in every household.
No, having a radio, first of all, you begin with every institution. Okay? Then the issue of households, now that is something that people can work on. Remember, we didn't ask citizens, there was no government plan to ensure that every citizen had a phone.
People kind of got with the times.
Yes, if Safaricom can tell you that they have 33.1 million subscribers,
Yeah.
and we have a population of,
There's still some 15 million who
Yes.
are not covered in this.
they're probably children.
Or maybe not. Or maybe not. A couple of million adults don't have access to phones, to mobile phones.
A couple million adults simply do not have phones because they can't afford it.
Yeah.
It's not that they wouldn't want one, they can't afford
They can't
it.
afford it.
Yes. And the beautiful thing about the phones that aren't considered smart, they have radio. Yes, they have radio.
They do.
What we call the Mulika Mwizi,
Yeah. They
have radio, and they even have a torch.
Somebody thought
They
about
do.
that one well.
So what do you think, City? Should these exams be postponed this year?
I don't think there's an option here, really. But that decision should be deferred to the end of this month.
See how it looks in the next...
The decision to
yeah.
actually sort of like say, guys, it's not going
No
to work.
exams.
Yes, this month.
I don't see it being given at the end of this month. I see that decision coming in September, October.
Well, let me tell you why I'm talking about this month. The end of this month, we'll have clearly seen the trajectory of this disease. Clearly. You will not need to. You're going to talk about it peaking, reaching a certain trough, and then sort of like declining. We will understand, okay? Everything else that happens thereafter, we cannot really tell.
Yep.
But if you were to ask me what should be done, plans should be made to postpone the exams, so that it stops being something that is lingering and worrying.
Yeah.
Just decide, okay, this year we're not having exams, so the issue and worry of exams out.
Going by the trend of all the other, major decisions that have to be made globally. Wimbledon had to wait until yesterday to officially cancel. Olympics had to wait until, was it last week but one? To officially cancel the Olympics. Decisions are not being made so easily. So even this one, the Kenya National Examinations Council is not going to make a decision quickly.
Well, I think with all of these decisions that have been made, there's a lot to take into consideration. Yeah. I mean, if you want to look at the Olympics, for example, there was a lot of pressure from IOC members themselves.
And it's a global, event.
The world you're taking into consideration here. But then for them to realize, okay, certain qualifiers never took place, and then say, can we really do this? And insist, yes, we know you've planned, you've spent money, you've done everything that you've had to do to be ready as a country, as a city. But then looking at what's going on around the world, can we really pull it off? And, finally bowed to the pressure and said, no.
No, we can't.
Remember, a smaller population of this particular country have ensured, because of the activities, that examinations and even the timetabling of their learning is scheduled. It's called the university.
Yeah.
We've had practice. If you can change that and life still goes on, this is an event that is being caused by something specific. You can postpone it. Yes.
25 minutes to 7 o'clock. This is a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. You can have the Standard newspaper delivered right to your doorstep wherever you are around the country. If you're in Nairobi, Mombasa, the Rift Valley, Coast, Mount Kenya region, I'll be giving you the numbers to call shortly if you want the newspaper delivered right to your doorstep. Good morning.
All right. Good morning.
Spice
What the roads
FM.
look like right now. No jam on Wayaki Way heading into the city centre. Absolutely clear coming off of Mombasa Road as well into the roundabout at Nyayo Stadium and then into the CBD. Nothing seems to be happening here. Langata Road. That looks fine as well. Coming off of Thika Road, then into the city as well. And outbound, no problems here whatsoever. The Mwiki Road, despite Corona, everybody's still complaining that is impassable right now. Probably look at that later and see how then it's affecting traffic onto the Greater Thika Superhighway. We'll take a look later, but for now, everything looks good. Spice FM KE is how you can reach us on Twitter if you see something out of the ordinary. Things are moving just smoothly in Mombasa at the ferry in Likoni and in and out of, on and off of the island, rather. So if anything changes, do let us know and we'll spread the word to keep people moving this morning.
Everything nice. All right. Okay.
Spice up your life.
If you'd like the Standard newspaper, the bold and factual newspaper delivered right to your doorstep, get a copy of that. If you're in Nairobi and Mount Kenya region, that is Nairobi, Machakos, Kajiado, Kiambu, did I say Kitengela and Kajiado? No, Ngong.
You said Kajiado, but
Kajiado,
it's okay.
right? Those counties, Nairobi, Kiambu County, Machakos County, Kajiado County. You can get it delivered by calling 0702 905 941. That's 0702 905 941. The gentleman called Anthony Mutunga will pick your call. Benson Guitar will pick your call if you call 0702 905 780. And that is if you're in Mount Kenya or the coast and you'd like the Standard newspaper delivered to your doorstep. Mount Kenya or the coast, Benson Guitar 0702 905 780. And if you're in the Rift Valley and the Nyanza regions, you can call Mark Odhiambo 0776 756 107. That's Mark Odhiambo 0776 756 107. Delivered to your doorstep. Terms and conditions apply. This is the bold and factual newspaper. We're taking a look at the headlines. The other headline in the Standard and the Nation, both newspapers this morning, are talking about the burial of Archbishop Emeritus Ndingi Mwana Nzeki. He has died at a very bad time where this man would have seen many people come even from across the world to attend his funeral.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this time, only 100 people will be allowed to attend his burial, and he will be buried next week at a private ceremony next week on Tuesday. According to the church, only about 100 people will be allowed at the ceremony, locking out politicians, clergy, and faithful whom he had led for more than 60 years of priesthood. According to a statement released yesterday, a requiem mass will be held at the Holy Family Basilica from 10 a.m. on Tuesday, and thereafter Bishop Ndingi will be buried in the crypt inside the basilica in capital Nairobi, where he retired as the head of the archdiocese. He'll be buried inside the Holy Family Basilica, the crypt inside the Holy Family Basilica, and only about 100 people will be allowed to attend.
Yeah,
Now,
I mean,
how
as
do
you
you
say-
choose these 100?
Yeah, how are you going to make the choice, right? I mean, as you said, it would have been thronged with so many people from around
Oh, yes.
the world if we were living in different times at the moment. But at the end of the day, what you see is that now, he will be buried, he'll be sent off in a good way. But, the numbers of people that you would expect to come and pay their last respects will not be able to do so
Physically.
physically. Yeah.
Because it can be
Physically.
televised live.
If
and
it's televised,
everybody will be
people
watching.
will attend that televised service.
Yes.
Yes.
Other headlines. CJ is warning of a surge in cases of defilement. The Chief Justice is urging parents to take better care of their children, especially during this period the schools have been closed over the outbreak of COVID-19. He is painting a grim picture of what's happening behind closed doors as those responsible for taking care of the children take advantage of them, leading to a significant rise in the cases of defilement reported in the last 2 weeks. Justice Maraga, who was giving a status update on the progress made by the judiciary and the restrictions that the disease has brought forth, says the cases constitute 35.8% of all criminal matters that are being reported during this period. In the last 2 weeks, 35.8% of all matters that are being reported, 35.8 involve defilement of children. And this is when both parents are at home and everybody is at home. What are we saying?
I mean, the ugly truth is, unfortunately, that you have children who are being defiled by their parents or one of their parents, or somebody who
relative.
lives in that home that they know, their relative. Yes. It's the ugly truth, but that's just what it is.
Maybe the cases are now rising because the parents are here to listen to and hear the kids. Also,
Yeah.
that's the other perspective. Mom is home, dad is home. So child comes and complains this
This
has
is what
happened,
has been happening.
and
yeah.
parent takes action, immediately goes to the police station
Yep.
and reports.
That's it. And unfortunately, we're also going to see a rise in domestic violence. We've already seen some of those around the world already, that there will be more cases. There will be a spike in this because now two people are in one space for a longer period of time. And those aggressions are actually coming to the fore. And unfortunately, the way they come out is by being violent.
Sad.
Very.
Other headlines?
All right, development cash to be diverted to war on virus. This is what is being reported in the Standard. Projects under Uhuru's Big Four agenda. You said this yesterday, Eric. Among those to be affected by budget cuts as Kenya battles what has been termed the worst crisis in the world since World War II. The National Treasury has proposed a freeze on all development projects and the cash diverted towards the fight against the coronavirus. I was going to say the fight against corruption, but okay. Among the projects to be affected, the major budget cuts are those under President Uhuru Kenyatta's Big Four agenda. The proposed reallocation of resources is contained in a supplementary budget to be tabled in Parliament this week. Restrictions, including a ban on all international flights and a dusk to dawn curfew in ongoing efforts to contain COVID-19, have hit all the major sectors of the economy hard. Businesses have shut down and thousands of employees sent home. This came as the government yesterday confirmed 22 more cases to bring Kenya's tally to 81. And now, according to Dr. Julius Muller, who is the PS Treasury, we are discussing all proposals aimed at raising resources to deal with the coronavirus. It is important that all options be explored. However, we cannot discuss the mini budget as it is yet to be approved by Cabinet. Control of Budget, Dr. Margaret Nyakango. This is to inform you that the National Treasury and Planning has put on hold all commitments, payments and claims as the country assesses the resource requirements for COVID-19 intervention.
This also comes with, it's good news to hear that the countries are not going to be spending on development when we need money to go and address COVID-19. The downside of this is it also affects the pending bills.
this is the thing, where we saw a couple of weeks ago that all pending bills were to be cleared.
Yes.
Right?
One of the ways that the government wanted to ensure that there is cash in people's hands is by paying these bills so that people who are owed by the government have money. Now they have said we are putting a freeze on all payments, all of them. ISPAC, the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya, has urged the government and the counties to revise downwards their overall development and recurrent budgets. ISPAC chairperson Rose Maura had advised the National Treasury to defer payments of 18.3 billion in pending bills due by the counties and 370 million owed by the government ministries and departments for mid-March for a period of 3 months. Right? So we are at a point where now the accountants are saying, I think the best thing that you guys ought to do is stop paying people.
Right.
The president is saying the best thing that we can do to ensure that people are not hard hit by this COVID-19 pandemic, economically and financially, is let's pay people. Yeah.
So which is it?
We are going to have a rough time, my friend. By the time we recognize what exactly we need to do.
We're in the middle of it. IEBC postpones 5 mini polls over coronavirus. IEBC was still working. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has postponed 4 county assembly and 1 parliamentary by-election. It said the postponements had been necessitated by the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. In a statement, the commissioner's chair, Wafula Chebukati, said the spread of the virus had led to the drastic measure and in line with the Public Order Act. The by-elections were to be conducted in Dabaso Ward in Kilifi County, Kisumu North Ward in Kisumu, Kahawa-Wendani Ward in Kiambu, Wudanyi Mbale Ward in Taita Taveta, and Msambweni constituency, Kwale. Dasabo fell vacant after the Court of Appeal in Mombasa ruled that the IEBC erred in declaring Emmanuel Chanagwa the leader in the 2017 general election. According to Wendani, the seat fell vacant following the death of Cyrus Omondi. The Kisumu North Ward fell vacant following the resignation of the immediate former MCA Elisha Jack Oraro. And of course, the Dabaso Ward by-election was to be on the 29th following the death of Msambweni MP.
Oraro resigned to become speaker, right?
Yes. Yes, he after being elected speaker of the County Assembly of Kisumu.
All right. So anyway, we can't have an election.
These are not going to happen, right? So
It's a good thing that our IBC has put it formally and officially that, well, as you know, in fact, I'm sure their state members have started, as you're well aware. Further to this,
there's Corona.
yes.
Remember, a while back, there was discussion and there was even some action towards ensuring that the proceedings in the Parliament are actually accessible live on TV
Yeah.
and also online.
Yes.
Now, again, this is yet another opportunity that we have to ensure that, as we say, moving forward swiftly in this case, that the lesson learned from this is you don't have to have everything dependent on people physically meeting for it to take place. We're already accustomed to talking to each other on the phone, so you no longer have to meet someone in order to discuss something.
Yeah.
Now, take it further. Make sure that the very process of decision making doesn't necessarily have to require people meeting physically. There are divisions within the government, there are sectors within the government where this is a reality. People don't actually have to physically meet. And the East African presidents showed this clearly.
Yeah. They had a digital meeting and
Yes, they
discussed
did.
pertinent issues.
Yes, they did.
I mean, this whole fund that we are seeing now, the Africa Fund, they were not in a room to be able to shake hands and sit and discuss. People sat in their respective corners and they discussed weighty issues and made changing decisions. So it's possible to be done.
It can be done.
Absolutely.
So cabinet people don't need to be coming back to Nairobi for cabinet meeting.
No, you don't. You don't.
In fact, the IGAD meeting was of heads of states and government was held the other day.
Do you know
Video.
what?
President
Do you know
Kenyatta here,
I just had a moment.
light bulb.
Yeah. It has shown that so many things can happen and we can reduce the cost of the money that is used and reasoned about for spending, travel between Nairobi and where. Governors can actually stay in their counties. MCAs can stay where they are. Nobody has to be flocking to the city.
Now
for-
MCAs need to meet.
What are they? No.
No. Do I support you?
You can stay where you are and do your job.
I actually support you.
Members of Parliament, stay there.
I support you. You know
Stay
why?
in your constituency, do
The
your
i-
job. We
the-
can
the
actually
idea
meet
of these
virtually.
digital meetings is still strange in our minds because
It's new. It's
No, it's very new. I mean, a lifetime of people physically meeting, throwing chairs at each other.
not necessary.
No.
Even internationally.
You cannot have animated conversations with people online.
we don't.
You're watching on the screen. No, Mr. Speaker.
Actually,
Point of order. Point of order. Point of order.
Actually, you can.
Entertainment.
You can. Look, no, it's okay. Entertainment is enough. The entertainment they've
Actually-
given us for the last 30 years, you don't do.
Why don't we take Eric at his word and look at football? All right? Or these sports. Remember at the beginning, it was the players would play, but people could
Without
watch.
fans.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, it isn't that is where you get stuck at. You actually ought to move to understanding that there needs to be an alternative.
It's true.
The judiciary has always had for the longest time its capacity to have people who can mediate and people who can be arbitrators. They are lawyers, but they function as a court of law would.
People will adjust, I'm telling you. Our content producer, Amlioto, was watching football and there was no one in the stadium. You find a way, I'm telling you. People
Yeah,
will
but
adjust.
the players are in the stadium, are they
Yes.
not? There you go.
The players are in where they're supposed to be,
We
in their
are the-
constituencies.
we are the
We'll get the
spectators.
information, we'll watch.
We need to.
It's okay.
It's
Don't
true.
worry. People
Eric,
will
what
adjust.
you're saying is a reality because this is one thing that people have difficulties. But consider, even on personal matters that people have had long considered could not necessarily go digital. Online dating, for instance,
Things have changed.
it's caught up.
Yeah.
I am one of those people who considers it bizarre because I do not see why I need to talk to somebody when I can actually meet them and talk to them. But if I look at what actually happens, people have moved on. They have considered
True.
it normal.
True.
New
Yes.
options and
Yes.
we take it and we go with it.
This technology thing is.
This one of
It is.
I'm telling you, we talked about, we had Kamodo Waiganjo here in the studio telling us about the majority of money spent in government is from these things that you see. Trips,
meetings.
allowances, this, that, the other
Yes.
thing. So it's actually possible to sit down where you are and get the job done.
And
It's
don't
possible.
get per diem.
Leave that
No,
thing,
you
I
don't-
beg.
per diem,
It's
you
not
have to travel.
necessary. You have
So
to
if
travel
you
to
don't
get per
travel,
diem.
there's
if you
no
don't travel,
per diem.
No per diem.
This thing will not work. You see? Have you seen? Has your light
I've
bulb
gone
not?
back to where we've painted that beautiful picture of seeing that more money could actually flow when you cut back on some of these things that aren't necessary. Do you see now?
You see, you take advantage of this situation because no one's going to argue with it. Because the need for saving money is obvious.
It's obvious.
Yes, and the contrary is also obvious, but it will be completely unpopular because you'll be asking, what are you talking about?
How can we not?
The reason why the so-called Asian tigers are where they are even economically right now, and they aren't suffering the same fate as the Western world when it comes to the economies, is because they've had this experience and they learned from it. You see, people talk of Bezos and how he's struggling. His competitor Alibaba don't have the same problem. For the simple reason that when SARS occurred, or when it hit that part of the world, people realize that you don't. Some of these things you don't have to physically go and many things you don't have to do. So online business, e-commerce took center stage and it actually acquired roots. So when you have another situation like this one, man, you just flip and say, oh, we've got this system that actually works. Let's move on to it. Now, other people are having to create that system from scratch. Of course, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be expensive. So, the warning signs that this particular COVID virus has afforded us. Now, this one is loud and it's in our face. But the truth is, we were warned.
Yeah.
We have been warned.
Yep.
We have been warned. We have been, not last year, not the year before. We've been warned for years now that this was likely to happen. We were warned. We've been warned about the environment, and you find unfortunate statements being made by heads of states you thought would be more responsible. Now, it's at our doorsteps. We were warned.
No, it's in the living room, CT.
Yes.
It's
we
in the
were
living
warned.
room. It's making itself to the backyard. This one. It's here with us.
Yeah, we shall blame everything on global warming now. I've gotten some word from an IGCSE teacher, somebody who understands the matters of GCSE and IGCSE. Says it's confirmed that none of the GCSE and IGCSE exams will take place this year in May or June. The teachers will provide predicted grades that will be used to award students grades in every subject. But in subjects with coursework such as art, music and languages, that's with a speaking component, these will be submitted for assessment. So it's already been confirmed. IGCSE has said, all right, GCSE and IGCSE, May, June, we're not doing this. Right.
Right.
That's already clear. It's it's been made clear. The editorial in The Nation today, City, let state clear the air on food importation. Kenya's food security is worrying. An announcement by the Agriculture Ministry that the country will have to import 4 million bags of maize is discomfiting. It's apparent that efforts to promote agricultural productivity and guarantee food sufficiency are not bearing fruit. Even more distressing that the country is grappling with coronavirus pandemic that has shut down all productive engagements. Now, talking about poor agricultural production. Our agriculture is largely rain-fed. Crops are destroyed when heavy rains fall and they're damaged when rains fail. It's a lose-lose situation. Elsewhere, rainwater is harnessed and managed for better crop husbandry. So basically just putting the government to task and saying, come on, so you're saying we're going to import maize, eh? Can you clear the air? So what exactly are you saying? Are we going to spend money in importing maize? Are we going to be able to support farmers in any way, shape or form for the next, season? We're in the long rain season, by the way, right? We are in March, April.
You're asking the wrong person. Me, I have no clue. I lost track of
You
these
lost
things.
those.
I lost track because
It's been raining.
it's just been raining.
Since
And then you're
last
told it's not
year.
going to rain, then it rains. And you're told it will rain, then it doesn't rain.
It's been raining since last
We'll
year.
take it when we get it.
When it rains, I say, I will
It's
tell
raining.
you
Sour.
it's raining. It rained this morning. But we should be in that season, yes. Eric, you see the problem that, if I may call it that, because that's what it is. When there's lack of clarity, when you obfuscate something that is actually straightforward, or you don't explain why it is we have to import maize, our mind will go back to the last time we were discussing maize in this country, and it was problematic.
Yep.
That's where our mind will go back to, because it needs to be explained. You can't have a part of the country telling you that they have maize, and then another one telling you we need to import. You're asking, wait, stop. What is actually happening? Let's clear the air. Do we have maize or do we not have maize in the
Yeah.
country?
I mean,
Okay.
it's either one or the other.
Yes, and if you're talking about improving the lives of the citizenry, this is the time when the government steps up and says, okay, we'll buy it at this price. Why? When you buy it, what you've actually done, you've gotten maize, but you've given your citizens money to do whatever else they need to do. You are keeping the economy running. But if you're telling us you want to import maize and you haven't clarified the air regarding whether we actually have surplus maize or we actually have maize in abundance somewhere, then we are back to square one. Yes, and the very thing that we are trying to sort of like water down and then give an element of positivity, you've negated that whole process completely. It becomes really difficult. How on earth do you then argue and say the government has control over this when there's lack of clarity? Simple clarity. There's clarity.
That's all you need.
Indeed. We've been taking a look at the headlines on the newspapers today. This is Home and Away. Today is Home and Away. Can't pay, won't pay. Landlords stare at losses. I saw a Landlords Association spokesperson speaking yesterday and saying we are ready to waive rent payment for a couple of months for our tenants, but we'd like the government to come in and support us. For example, we're talking about paying of rates, waive the rates for that period, and then we also don't
Charge
rent. Also, we're supposed to to submit some rental income to KRA, waive that as well, then we also don't charge rent. So basically, they're saying, give us something so we can pass on the benefits to our key stakeholders. The government ought to listen to some of these things.
It's a reasonable request, but remember, Eric, if we're to face reality, remember, I'm going to say remember around 4 times in this one sentence. The key to solving any problem is to understanding it. If you don't face the reality of a problem, how can you prefer a solution towards it? You will be solving something that doesn't exist because you're not being truthful and honest about it. The truth is that the process of people who make decisions for us changing their minds from what they're used to doing is proving to be difficult. Because the problem is clear. There's no lack of clarity there. The possible solutions are also not that complicated, really. The process of getting them to work may require a lot of work, but they're not complicated. But now, suddenly, even with this, you're still experiencing the same issues you experienced before when we didn't have a problem. Dilly-dallying, delay, double speak. Not useful.
Making decisions. On the issue of rent, though, I'm thinking our politicians are landlords. You'll see some movement here very fast. when they're hit by non-payments this
non-payment
month,
of rent.
you will see something happening. We're coming to the top of the hour. This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Remember, you can download the Standard e-paper app from Google Play Store and Apple App Store. C.T. Muga, today's proverb.
Today's proverb: the best way to eat an elephant standing in your path is to cut it up into little pieces.
Where is this proverb from?
They say it's an African proverb. When you hear it's an African proverb, it means there are very many communities
very
that have,
versions.
that have
Have said
similar
something like this.
something similar. They may have used some other big animal like a rhino or a giraffe.
It has to be with something to eat. That's how people would understand these things.
Precisely. You give an analogy that's easy to sort of like identify with.
Yeah.
And human beings identify with food very easily.
Keep it right here. The Situation Room continues. We'll be talking to several Kenyans who are outside the country, plus Kenyans who are in the country, and we'll also be allowing you to call in and chime in the conversations. 0719 012 600. Good morning. It's 7 o'clock.
Sugar and spice.
Nothing much has changed on the major roads in Nairobi today. We see that it's actually quite clear everywhere you look. So you're not going to have a problem if you need to dash somewhere and come back. It just means that public service vehicles are still plying the routes, and that using sanitizers where they need to, but unfortunately raising the cost of transport. Apart from that, nothing major going on. If you do see anything, do let us know. Right now, it's easy streets everywhere.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric.
Start your day wherever you are. In Nairobi, 94.4, Mombasa, 87.9, Kisumu, 102.5, 96.0 Nakuru, Eldoret 96.7, 90.9 Nyeri, Malindi 97.7, or if you're outside the country, wherever you are, www.spicefm.co.ke, or on Facebook, Spice FM KE. We are live streaming on Twitter, Spice FM KE. We're also live streaming on YouTube, Spice FM KE. Well, we had talked about the woes that are facing the governor of Kirinyaga County, the one and only Miss Anne Waiguru. She's battling impeachment from a county assembly, accusing her of abuse of office and gross misconduct. These MCAs went to their county assembly yesterday, and they've set the ball rolling in their attempt to remove the governor. The MCAs accuse her of gross violation of the Constitution, abuse of office, and gross misconduct. Mutira Ward MCA David Kenyua filed a motion of impeachment during a special sitting yesterday, even as the governor dismissed the allegations and exuded hope that the ouster bid would fail. Kenyua is accusing Waiguru of gross violation of the Constitution by failing to deliver the annual State of the County address to the Assembly. It's one of the grounds that you ought to have come to the Assembly to give a State of the County address. The governor has deliberately refused, failed, and or neglected to deliver the same for the financial year 2018-2019, which failure amounts to a gross violation of the Constitution. According to Waiguru, though, there's no requirement for a State of the County speech at the County Assembly. She's saying, I gave some speech at a certain market, and that should suffice. She's accused of using her office to improperly confer a benefit to herself when she was irregularly paid for travel allowances by way of interest amounting to 10 million shillings, yet she did not travel. The amount was paid to her personal
Again, how much again?
10.6 million.
Over what period of time?
I'm not sure. It doesn't actually tell us.
Okay.
But let's assume it's let's stretch it and say within one financial year. Travel allowance of 10M.
Good traveling. Carry on.
Good stuff, Senor. In a response, Waiguru says a casual check of the county government would indicate that where any such imprests exist, they were surrendered in the normal manner required by public service regulations. She's saying, I followed procedure. Another charge was on the Kirinyaga Investment Development Authority, which was established by the county assembly, whereas the county public service board had directed that KIDA board members should not be paid until their salaries have been approved by the SRC. Kenya is claiming that Waiguru did not take the said recommendation and has been having the board paid outside the county government's payroll. The governor is also accused of violating Public Procurement and Disposal of Assets Act in establishing a tender evaluation committee composed of the governor's staff, Pauline Kamau and Geshira Wayne. Hey, you guys have issues with the governor.
Well, and you know, it's...
Corona kando.
And she said, I think in her first response to this, she said, I don't understand why you would bring up such matters, especially at a time like this, when the country is focusing on something like Corona. But interestingly enough, the assembly in Kirinyaga doesn't think that Corona is a big enough issue to ignore a lot of the things which they see as injustices in the county.
If indeed the injustices, I agree with them.
Right? It's interesting, though, that she says, of all of these things that you're talking about, usually...
Everybody is working. Why not the MCS?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Remember, they're the direct representative of the
Of the people.
As you say, qua ground.
Vituni.
Different.
So now, they say, you can talk about, it can be whatever it is. It can be World War III for all we care. At the end of the day, something is not going right in the county as far as the governor's leadership is
But you see,
concerned.
at this
And
point,
we don't want it.
You see, we are still at the stage of accusations being leveled.
Yeah.
If you look at the article towards the end of it, they actually rational and say, but she has to be given time to come and also defend herself and to present her case.
She's actually begun her defense, actually, you know, whether in word or however. And she said, you know what, all of these allegations that you're bringing are actually of no personal benefit to me, my friends, or my family. As in, already she's starting to poke holes in it and say, these you're accusing me of all of these things. How have they benefited me personally? How have they benefited my friends? How have they benefited my family?
Well, if you've been paid 10.6 million shillings
in your personal
irregularly,
accounts, she may think that's not a benefit. She was supposed to travel.
but it's interest and it's travel anyway.
It is a benefit.
She says that
Even,
it's all...
even according to the taxman, it's a benefit.
It's not an extra benefit. Basically, she's saying, well, I traveled and I'm entitled to this.
to an allowance, so it was paid to me. So
There's
what's the
nothing
problem
irregular or improper about this.
about this?
She's also seeing a political hand in things, right?
Of course, aren't you?
Some people in the national government are making a move at me, and that's what she said in her statement as well.
There is not a single allegation of a personal benefit to me, my relatives or friends. They are just thrown there for publicity and propaganda. And she says somebody has been at work in the background and pulling out this case, essentially, literally, and saying that they just don't want to leave me alone. They're going to find something to try and hold against me, and now they want to take the governorship away from me. She's not going to take it sitting down.
So the Speaker, Anthony Waweru, has directed the clerk to collect the signatures of the MCAs who support the motion. He has also required the clerk to formally notify the governor of the allegations and invite her to exonerate herself. The notice will take several days, after which it will be tabled on the floor of the county assembly for debate before a vote is taken. Majority Leader Kamau Murango said 30 out of the 33 MCAs support the motion. We require 2/3 or 22. We have 30.
Wow. She also goes on to say that, you know what, we're actually trying to strengthen the health system in the county. It has never been more robust than it is currently. It's actually working. And now you want me to leave it all behind for petty issues. So according to her, this whole impeachment motion, all of these allegations are petty issues. They don't matter. They don't feature in any of the work that she's trying to do for the county.
I saw some of the people who claimed to be her supporters on a video clip yesterday saying that her deputy, Mr. Ndambiri, is also playing these games. That he's being used also to support the impeachment motion because he knows, of course, Panya Paka Kiondoka, the Panya, that's him, he'll be left to rule. Listen to what the MCAs are saying.
the issues of COVID-19, that doesn't mean that it will suspend the right to representation to our people. Therefore, her statements are just abusive. I would say they are primitive. And I would want to tell her that we are doing our work without giving in to any intimidation or threat or giving in to her arrogance.
This is a rotten government. This is a government that does not listen to its own people. This is a government that does not care. This serikali ina watu vichwa ngumu sana, and that is why we require this hammer just to kick their heads and send them away home.
And we have wrote several letters. All those allegations which are there, I have through the finance committee which I sit, we have asked for documents which are supposed to exonerate.
They are resolute. They are determined.
But I can tell you up to now,
Are they?
blaming the COVID-19 virus,
Are
the
they?
documents
Yes,
in
they are
our
determined.
team. If you don't bring
To whatever end. Not necessarily to
If,
impeach her.
if,
There
if,
is
if
two
the
things.
leopard has
Either
changed
you are
its spots,
ignoring what
or it has somehow done away with the sports, maybe. Look, the problem with our political class is that every time you see such action, even if what they're saying is probably true, usually they're bargaining for something. We threaten you, we give you an opportunity to come and talk to us and see if whatever you're going to tell us makes sense. Now, every accusation that they have leveled against the governor, I'm certain is something that she can actually counter. I don't think there's anything here that cannot be countered because it more or less mirrors other accusations that we've had of other governors before. And with the exception of the collective father, who had other cases involving individuals, misappropriation of people's properties. You see, there were things you could pinpoint. Everything that has been laid out in the paper, these are administrative things, if you ask me. And administrative things can be responded to administratively.
Yeah.
Yes. And as to whether these things constitute what the MCAs are saying they do, now that's something else that the court will likely have to determine. And this court, as we know it,
Is the Senate.
Is the Senate. Okay. So,
And when it goes to the Senate, we'll be reminded of the divide.
yes.
She's on which side of the divide? She's on the BBI divide.
Yes.
The story is dead.
Dead in the water.
It's dead. It's dead.
Eric has foreseen, and he has decided this one. There's no way it's going.
But look at the facts. I am not saying that they don't have a point. I am simply saying, if we look at someone who was impeached recently, the cases leveled against their collective father, you could see these are wrongs which they can prove, and you can see them. Forget them being spoken of. Everything they have said. Is there any governor who will not have questions to answer with regards to their traveling? Is there any? None.
Of course, it can be proven. You can go down. Look, down to the last shilling.
Is there any governor who has not been faced with issues of procurement? None. Now, it's a question of, remember, every year when the Auditor General would give reports, what they wanted was an explanation. They're not saying you took the money, just saying this one has not been fully explained. Yeah, that's
But
it.
if you had that MCA, the MCA is saying the county assembly has asked for explanation and they haven't received any. And that's why they're making a move. They're saying, we gave you a chance. We told you we'd like you to explain this and the other expenditure. You haven't given us an explanation. You're giving us the excuse that there's corona, that's why I'm not responding to you. Or my response has not arrived to you because corona has
Getting
stopped
it
it on the
there
way.
They've decided she's arrogant.
Yeah, they've decided that the way in which she's dealing with this matter is arrogant, and she's being very flippant about these issues. I mean, you just hear from the statement that she has mentioned. Look here, there's nothing that is of
They
benefit to
let
me.
them
These are
learn
just
to read.
petty issues. You people are bringing up petty issues, and we actually have work to do. That's what she basically has said
This-
to them.
You know what it tells you? This lovely lady who's the governor of Kirinyaga is not a politician. These are not things you respond to in the manner she's responding to. Not really.
But you see her responding, it means that she's feeling the heat.
She
for
is feeling the
sure.
heat, but Eric,
She's feeling the heat.
I
how
think
do
her
you
response is also a strategy.
And
to
also her
show
response, she's not
her-
responding to the dog, she's responding to the owner. Basically. If she's at the end of her statement, she alleges that this is being manipulated from elsewhere, that's why she's choosing to use the public forum to address the person that she believes is manipulating
You
this
see,
exercise.
why this may fall on deaf ears. Talk about manipulation, talk about collusion, but if people have absolutely nothing to actually really genuinely complain about, or they have no beef,
Yep.
it wouldn't get this far. There is a beef. Somebody simply benefits from an existing situation. they fuel it.
Oh, there's something for sure.
That's what they've
By the
done,
time
they
people
fuel
are
it.
making noise, this thing would not have gathered the steam that is still pushing it down a couple of days. They're kicking the barrel down the road for a couple of days, still going full steam ahead. If it was nothing, there would be no.
Ask yourself a
It
very
wouldn't
simple
go beyond
question.
this. I mean, they were going to impeach Ruto.
Why
weren't they?
did this
Where are we?
Tangatanga, Kieleweke, and Isieleweke, how on earth did it take center stage in our conversation so firmly? People had issues that they felt had not been addressed.
Yeah.
That's it.
The factions are issue based.
Yes.
And that's what
Oddly
has come
enough,
through.
they are issue based. Politics comes in and it sort of like gets muddied. But there were issues.
Yep.
You may not think they were genuine, but there were issues.
They were
They are there.
Yes. And people, and with the time, people are pointing them out and say, look, the issue is this and this and this. So, in this case, you
Whether
cannot.
they were sent or not.
No.
Whether the dog has
That's a
an
different
owner-
discussion.
Yeah, whether the dog
Immaterial.
has an owner or not.
No,
that's
that's
not
a
the
different
point.
discussion.
Immaterial.
But people had problems that they wanted to see addressed.
Yes.
And they still want to see them addressed.
They
and
do.
you can hear that is what they've said very clearly. The guy has said, Corona or not, your arrogance aside, at the end of the day, if you want to exonerate yourself, then bring us the justification for these things the which you are raising issue. You cannot bring the justification, we will go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sisi tutaendelea. But also her response, like you said, City, it smacks of that arrogance.
Yes.
Mtadu.
Basically.
Mtadu.
One
Because
statement.
When they raise the issue of procurement of the governor's vehicle at a cost of 15 million shillings, and they're saying it was allegedly irregularly awarded despite the same having been procured during the previous regime of Governor Joseph Ndathi, the governor says the vehicle was bought under a government framework contract which is negotiated by the Ministry of Public Works. They should read up on that.
Oh.
Can you imagine?
And what that means. They should read up on what that means.
Whoa,
So
essentially,
she has said many things.
Yeah.
No,
You don't read.
No,
And-
no,
and-
no,
and
no.
a
You don't
government- you should
understand.
If you don't
You don't
understand
understand
what
how
government
government
framework
works.
is,
let
Yeah.
me, in one statement, you illiterate lot.
Voila.
Okay?
I was being polite. She wasn't so much.
Or is it you semi-literate lot?
Yeah.
Okay, get your act together.
Yeah.
And please understand that this document was written in English. So go and polish it up, and then it doesn't matter how you look at it. It's a situation that could have been handled better.
Better.
Indeed. 16 minutes after 7, let's take a look at the weather and then we continue the conversation. Good morning.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads. Make some noise. You're listening to Spice FM.
Partly cloudy skies in Nairobi today. It's coming out to be quite clear at 17 degrees, though, highs of 27 and lows of 17. In Nyeri at 16 degrees, it's clear skies with periodic clouds, likely to go into an afternoon of showers today, then with highs of 26. In Eldoret at 13 degrees, it's clear skies this morning, highs of 26 and lows of 13. Clear skies in Kisumu today at 19 degrees, a chance of rain in the afternoon with highs of 31 and lows of 19. In Malindi this morning, it's partly cloudy at 27 degrees, showers expected with highs of 33 and lows of 27. Taking a look then into Mombasa, where it's mostly cloudy this morning, thunderstorms expected in the afternoon with highs of 33 and lows of 27. Take a peek back into Dar es Salaam, where the fog is still quite low today at 26 degrees. Thunderstorms expected later with highs of 31. And into Kampala, where it's partly cloudy at 21 degrees, highs of 28 today. In Johannesburg at 11 degrees, it's clear skies, likely to see some rain later with highs of 17 and a chilly afternoon of 9. In Lagos today, it's clear skies at 27 degrees, highs of 34 and lows of 25.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, everything nice. Spice FM.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Tunataka kumwambia gavana ya kwamba sisi ni watu wamekomaa, sisi ni watu wamechaguliwa, na kama kuna mtu anatutumia ni wale walituchagua.
We have the evidence to prove the allegations that we have laid upon this house this day, and we want to ask the people of Kirinyaga, have faith in your MCAs because you elected them, and we want to promise that work will continue.
Governor, tumeona hautupeleki vizuri kwa sababu umekuwa ukiita MCAs unajaribu kuwagawanyisha, umekuwa kieka pesa like 2018 2019 pesa ya bursaries ya wanafunzi wetu tuliweka kwa budget 70 million shilling, 2019 2020 tukaweka 70 million shilling, but what did you do the last 2 weeks? Ulitoa kwa budget ukapunguza ikabaki 25 million shilling. Seriously, that's an insult to the people of Kirinyaga. Na kusema kweli hiyo.
The governor is up.
He's even sworn personally, Haki ya Mungu.
Sioni
This one is Sioni. He said.
If you listen to the statements they are making, this isn't choreographed.
No, it isn't.
Why not? Why do you say so?
Why I say, I was listening to the message. They seem to be saying the same thing, but they're actually not. Each one of them seems to be picking up something specific. One picks up and says, you know, there's this thing about kutawanisha, okay? Now, when someone says that, it means it's something they've put up with for some time, but now they're figuring out this thing is not really very useful to us.
There's been a divide and rule.
Yes, and probably
before.
now that outside force that the governor was speaking of has come in. So now that divide and rule thing, the person has started benefiting from it. And if you're coming in to scuttle or the chicken, I think you don't just come with a fox. You come with perhaps a bigger animal. So this particular game that was there now has gotten to a larger scale.
Basically, she's just saying, these guys, you know what they want. They're trying to shake me down because they want money. They're talking about some bursary funds that were supposed to be given to them. They were not given. They're talking about the procurement. Who is it that bought the car? Who did this and the other?
Yes.
Who was given these contracts?
Yes.
So she's saying, well, these guys want. Listen to her statement. The last 2 paragraphs of her response statement. Every Kenyan knows what these kind of frivolous impeachment motions by MCAs are about. I will not concede to illegal requests for tenders and money at whatever price. As for those pulling the strings from outside the assembly because of the 2022 politics, time will find you out.
Wow. How's that for some
I
heavy
am not
statement?
taking that lying down. That's basically what she's saying. You want to fight? Let's fight.
Others are saying that she's come
Let's fight.
She's come out tooth and nail because that she could receive some support from outside quarters as well. The way she's saying that others are outside pulling the strings and the MCAs are the puppets in all of this, the same sentiment on the other side that, well, okay, there could be some protection for you, my dear, some protection for you from the higher ups to make sure that actually this will not really go anywhere, and it's just going to be a matter of a phone call, and you'll be fine. So it could be argued on both sides.
What could
You're saying that
2022
somebody's
politics
pulling
be?
the strings. You could say that somebody's pulling the strings to bring drama within your county. At the same time, others could say somebody's pulling the strings to make sure that you won't go anywhere.
To cushion you.
Yeah.
To give you a ball to land on.
She just stops short of saying over my dead body.
That's what she's saying.
That's what she has said. Literally, that's what she has said.
The
This thing
last-
is not going to happen.
At
So
whatever
forget about
price
it.
means over my dead body.
Yes, the last
Even if I have
time
to
we
die.
had people making such interesting statements, we know they didn't die because they're still alive.
Yeah.
But we also know that the lofty position they held also disappeared.
Yep.
Could it be then that there's been a lot of silence, and we saw that when BBI, before it got snuffed out by Corona, previously she had made certain alliances already. She had shown herself in a way that ordinarily she wouldn't.
Even if she didn't, she was associated.
So there
She
was a
was right
lot.
there.
So what I'm saying is that there was a lot that has been happening in the background, and for this to come out now at the time that it has come out, in the way in which it has come out, it's not something that people had a drink over the weekend and said, "Hey, I'm bored on Monday. Let's see what we can do." No, it's something that has been simmering for some time, and say, "You know what? We've seen this, and this. This is a perfect opportunity for us to speak out and say something needs to be done about
Or
it."
perfect opportunity when everybody else is facing the corona side, we attack. Everybody else's attention has been distracted, so let's start unraveling this BBI alliance that's shaping up. Maybe the Tanga guys have just been sitting there twiddling their fingers and thinking, we are too idle. We are not fighting corona.
That's what I'm saying. We need to do something.
Let's do something.
Well, and look, this is something that they did, whatever it is.
And this
The
is-
numbers that they've gotten are significant, my friend.
But
They're
yeah.
only short of 3.
No,
So
the numbers they tell us they have.
The
short of
numbers
3.
they claim to have.
Yeah.
Things
Yes,
could change. I
yes.
mean, we've
No-
seen it
not
before.
even claim.
We still haven't seen who's signing.
We
this
really
thing
don't
before the
know.
assembly.
Do you remember even with the case in Kiambu? Oh, there wasn't a quorum. There wasn't this.
People
Some
had
walked
been-
out, some drove and did not
Yes.
leave with their
And
vehicles.
then we had Mtulu Kilonzo Jr. says, actually, please, there's something you need to consider.
Yeah.
It's not this, what you guys are talking about. What is it that particular county has at its rules and regulations pertaining to this? Because if they follow that one, that's it.
They're good.
They're good. And that thing went silent and it went, if you recall. Now, this particular one doesn't seem set to go away soon.
Nope.
Every complaint that you hear against a governor, it's like you could just copy paste it, couldn't you? Maybe just a few details differing here and there, but it's the same thing.
It's the same stuff.
Same stuff. If it isn't a car, it is something which was bought. If it isn't that, it was some procurement issue. If it wasn't that, it was something else.
But which she's chalked up to trivial matters that really don't,
No.
are really not here or there. And I think that's a strategy that she's used to kind of poke holes in the importance of all of it. It's a strategy for her to say that she's really not scared.
Those things are not trivial.
And but this is what I'm saying.
This is really the point here.
It's a strategy for her to show them off as trivial and to say, know
Even
what,
if it's
people
one
are
thing,
looking,
even if it's just one case of abuse of office,
One.
procurement of a vehicle,
it's enough.
That's it.
10 million shillings.
That's it.
It was unprocedural. That should be enough to get her out.
That's the threshold, by the way. Not 2.
That should be enough.
And this is what she's saying, that here, and I'm saying that is a strategy that she's using. The manner in which she has answered to this is that really, okay, it's really not as in, come on, guys, you could have done better. Throw something else at me. Throw something heavier at
is
me
this
that we
all
can
you
now
got?
contend
Pause
with.
for a
Is that
single
what you
second
have?
and
Really?
consider that our counties cover our rural areas in the country. Okay? This big town mindset of what is important and what isn't doesn't fly in these places. These things that you think are not important are absolutely important.
Those are the things
Call
that
them
matter.
trivial,
When you
that is
start
what people
saying
bank
things
on.
like they ask me, you trivial procurement things, but that's how they feel they can also do something for their people or benefit. And you see, this thing which is trivial to you is important to somebody else. So if you trivialize it, what you're saying is that they are themselves trivial.
So
this
they
is
also
not
then are not important.
even someone who may have been inclined towards you will not. Because remember, in a rural setting, Ndu, when you have been residing in town, you are actually looked at as an alien.
You just say that. But she's basically looking at it and wondering, you guys, do you realize that the coronavirus could actually be in Kirinyaga? Do you realize that people could be walking around spreading this virus? Do you realize that we ought to be focusing our attention on getting people to stay indoors, reduce movement,
And you're asking me about 10 million
wash
shillings.
hands, and you're coming to bring up such frivolous. Listen to her statement. It is unfortunate that at a time when the country, indeed the whole world, is focused on dealing on the coronavirus health pandemic, some MCAs from Kirinyaga County have opted to dwell on pettiness and political brinkmanship by filing a frivolous motion to impeach the governor without any foundation. The issues raised are so basic that they are an embarrassment to the constitution that they seek to protect and the county that elected these MCAs. Come on, you can just imagine if she was at all, she would have thrown her phone.
No, that
As we
phone.
say, all the
No,
English.
that particular phone was thrown very, very carefully. It wasn't hurled. Had it been hurled against a wall, I would have said, "Okay, there."
Yeah, he's mad.
Anger personified. But it was just tossed. No. Eric, you can send the same message without sounding arrogant.
And patronizing.
Yes, same message can be sent.
So you think she's arrogant here and patronizing?
No. It's not she is arrogant. The message is dismissive. And if it is dismissive, then you can attach anything else that you want to it. It means it's not held in high regard. It is inconsequential.
But remember, even when she was a minister and the issues of NYS first came up before she decided to ask the president to give her lighter duties, she had responded this way. Come on. Can you even listen
understand what you're saying?
Can you hear yourself speak? Sort of, you know? This is what she's even telling the MCs. Are you listening to yourself?
Look at what the
Repeat
not
what
even
you've
the
just
county,
said.
not even the country.
And listen to yourself.
Look
as
at
well.
what the world. Look at what the world is going through, and this is what you
And
choose to
shake
come and
your
talk
head.
about now.
You mean
Why?
everybody in the world, Prince of the UK, has gotten corona. You're telling us about some frivolous things here.
Some 10 million shillings here that I didn't travel.
I don't know, constitution breached. If you can't even read, if you don't even understand how a car can
You're
be
an
procured
embarrassment
through
to the
a government.
Constitution.
Do you know what you?
You know,
doing
every
this with their
statement
head?
that you read, Eric, amounts to an insult.
Yes, no.
Well,
It may not be intended as such, or it may be, I don't know, but it amounts to one.
comes out that way.
It comes out that way in the worst possible way. Worst possible way. There's no meeting anybody halfway. There's no acknowledging. There's no... Because this is a political issue. So it at some level, you must deal with it politically.
Yep.
There's no addressing it and even giving credence to those who have brought it up and thanking them for doing due diligence and for doing what they can and saying these are things that we'll make available.
I can respond to this.
And
I'm
I
ready.
always
I'm
can.
ready.
But I'm wondering
I
why they
have
brought
the
it
proof.
here.
I'm going to bring it to you. The documents that you're asking me for, I actually have
These
them.
people also
They'll
know
be
the
brought.
processes we have in collating this information. It's being collated. And when we have it, they will receive
They'll
it.
receive it.
What is so difficult about making such a statement?
Coming days are going to be interesting in Kirinyaga County.
Yes, this one has poked the bear.
Let's see how this
And
plays
by
out.
the way, that neck of the woods, that part of the world,
They-
people are feisty.
They
that part of the
don't
world.
mince their words.
Oh,
They don't hold back.
okay.
They don't hold back.
All right. We are in for interesting times here.
Let's see what happens.
Decide.
This is a situation room at 28 minutes to 8 o'clock. Keep it right here. Shortly after taking a look at traffic, we will cross over to Nicaragua. The capital city of Nicaragua is called what?
Managua.
Managua.
I wanted
See
to say-
Managu.
Managua.
Repeat.
I wanted to say Yenagoa, but Yenagoa is in Nigeria. I was like, wait a minute.
We'll speak to a Kenyan couple that is stuck in Nicaragua. They'd have wanted to come back home, but they can't. But they also are on a world tour that they have had to suspend. Keep it right here. We'll be talking to them shortly.
.9 Spice FM.
All right. Let's see
Mombasa.
how things have changed or remained the same on the roads today. Really, guys, really nothing happening on the roads. I got to say that you need to make sure before you enter into any public service vehicle, make sure that you've sanitized. Don't touch anything that you shouldn't be, and make sure that you're maintaining the distance that you need to within the vehicles. And as it is, yes, you get into a vehicle that has more than the number of people that it should. Yes, do get out, or at least raise an alarm. We don't see much happening on our roads today. It's easy street. You'll get where you're going going in record time and record speed today as well. But please be very, very careful so you don't get into any uncomfortable situations. Spice FM KE, anything out of the ordinary, please do let us know so we can spread the word. Thank you.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Someone has just sent a comment. Typical Kenyan political speak. Waiguru ataona moto. So let me tell you guys about this couple. Dos and Wamoyo, Kenyans. They have lived in Kenya most of their lives. Mm-hmm. And 2 years ago, they sat and decided, you know what, Wamoyo, my darling, what do we do? We've traveled this country, we love bikes. What do we do? Why don't you just go around the world? And Wamoyo is like, yeah, let's. And that joke became reality. They went and bought brand new bikes. They decided we are going to tour the world on our motorbikes. How long is it going to take us? Motorbikes.
Okay.
Picky. Okay. Each on their own bike.
Can I ask
on her bike.
What make of motorbike? What
you see those gigantic things that the president's entourage rides on? Those ones. Those huge things.
Those ones that have the engine of a small car.
Those ones.
Okay.
Now you can imagine.
And with the radiator.
You can imagine DOS one and then Wamoyo behind, or Wamoyo ahead and the other one behind. Those big things.
My goodness.
They decided we are crossing the world. And they mapped out this trip and they decided this is where we're going to start and this is where we're going to end. And in their estimation, it was going to take them around 3.5 to 4 years of travel. 2 years ago, they set off at Westlands, went towards Kampala. From Uganda, they found themselves crossing all the way to South Africa. South Africa, they loaded their bikes on some ship, went to Southern America. They went and toured Antarctica. They have been in the South America for so long. They have toured 22 countries, and then coronavirus hit. And you know what has happened? Borders closed. Crossing from one country to the other now becomes virtually impossible. So now they're looking at what's happening to the world and they're thinking, okay, we've got to make decisions. We did not anticipate staying in one place for this long. We are spending the money that we should be spending in country number 23 in country 22. What do? They decided to cancel their world tour altogether, come back home. Unfortunately, because again of coronavirus, there are no flights and no borders are closed. So they are in Managua. Stranded in Nicaragua. And they are joining us on the line. Good morning, Wamoyo.
Good morning. Okay, it's good evening here, yes.
Oh, right. Good evening.
7:30 p.m. a.m. here. It's 10:30 p.m. there.
Yes.
Wow. So let's start from the very beginning. Did you ever think that you'd be in this position right now? And give us some of the emotions around that at the moment.
It never ever occurred to us that we will be stuck anywhere during this. In all our planning, we never saw ourselves getting stuck anywhere. We thought it was going to be smooth all the way. Yes.
So when did you make the decision that you've got to end this dream world tour of yours?
After we did a lot of planning and we are very unsure of when the borders are going to open up, because from here our plan was to head on to Honduras, Guatemala, Mexico, then in the U.S.
Yep.
But the way things are going and how the weather is, so we don't envision traveling up to the U.S. probably by the time the summer ends. So we decided to just suspend the trip.
Hold on. You said you don't see yourself traveling to the U.S. until the end of the summer? That's in August, September.
Yeah, because right now the way the coronavirus is very unpredictable. No one knows when the borders are going to open.
Mm-hmm.
It, you can't really plan.
So I would like to know. I mean, obviously, you were taking this trip. You were taking this trip around the world on motorbikes, right? So you were not planning on staying here for a very long period of time. So then how has this all changed with living conditions? You're setting up a place to live, supplies and all of this. What are you doing about that?
So we are currently staying in a hostel. In this country, the last flight leaves tomorrow. So from tomorrow, there'll be no flights coming in and there'll be no flights leaving the country.
Right.
We're looking at Nicaragua now, and they're... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yes. They've also asked hotels to close down and not take in any new guests. So we had to negotiate with the owner of where we are staying to give us a place to stay until it's possible to leave the country, which they have accepted gladly.
So is Nicaragua on lockdown, and what's the coronavirus situation in Nicaragua?
There are 5 people who have been reported, and it's not really on lockdown. There are no curfews. Everyone is free to walk around, but everyone, there are sanitizers everywhere, but everyone is keeping to themselves. The streets are empty. No one is working, but everything is normal.
Yeah, it would seem that everything is normal. Looking at 6 million people in the country and 5 cases, and just looking at what has been reported in terms of 1 death, is there panic from what you've been able to see? I mean, you talked about the fact that you can go free, you can move freely. Is there any kind of panic?
Initially, there was nothing showing panic or anything until the first case was reported. And the following day, we went to the supermarket and everyone was in masks. There were sanitizers all over the mall. Dads had sanitizers to sanitize everyone coming in, walking out of the mall. So we saw the change so drastic.
Right.
So yes, people are concerned and they understand what is happening, and from the news they understand the magnitude of corona. Even without the government directives and too much push, we've seen a change in how people are carrying themselves behavior. We see a lot of seriousness and also lesser people in the streets and in the malls.
Just by the fact that you guys chose to do this trip tells us that you are free-spirited people. You like to meet new people, meet new challenges and face new challenges. Now you're in a place where you are not interacting much with people. How do you feel?
It's definitely very, very different. And actually today we were talking about it because we spent most of the time in the room.
Yep.
Since we got to Nicaragua, we had a lot of high traffic from people coming into the city to leave the city, and the hostel had put measures already because it wasn't easy for them to screen the people coming in or travelers, where they're coming from, how long they've been in the country. They were not able to ask those questions like the authority would, and so they asked everyone to take precautions on themselves, and they gave guidelines. So obviously our social life has reduced even if we are staying in a hostel, and we feel the difference. We miss socializing and like we always do. But again, on the other hand, we have to take precautions for ourselves.
Okay. Now, just give us the experience that you've had since you set off from Nairobi 2 years ago. The kind of places you've been to, the kind of people that you've met. Are you interacting with other bikers from all those parts of the world?
Yes. The travel itself has been quite good because we did make sure that we are traveling during the good weather, so we've not had bad weather. That's one. And secondly, we meet a lot of people that are traveling, and we've made lots of new friends. So most of our times, even if we're staying in the room, we spend a lot of time talking to people we've met. We have WhatsApp groups. We chat on Facebook.
Yep.
We've met a lot of people. We also have friends who are like us in other countries, and we keep in touch and compare notes, what are you guys doing and all that, just to give each other moral support. We have friends in Brazil, we have friends in Mexico, we have friends in Chile who could not get out because borders closed so quickly.
How has the reception been
But
like?
other than coronavirus, the travel itself has been really good.
Right. How have you been received in the many countries that you've gone to, especially when they look and they see these are strangers, their bikes have different registration numbers from what we know. How do they receive you?
So we have one advantage of meeting so many people, so we get introduced to other people in the country, and especially the bikers. I did come back home to do a ride for the International Women. It was Women Riders World Reading, in which platform I have connections almost all over the world. So that also has been very helpful. I know someone from all these countries, and it's easy to connect with other bikers. So that's one. But when we get to a border where people don't know us, they're seeing Kenyans for the first time, they're seeing Kenyan registered motorcycles for the first time, it's always a conversation starter. We spend more time in the borders talking about our country to the authorities than answering questions about immigration.
Right.
What kind of questions do they ask you?
So first thing when they see us, they expect that we come from America. Like that's the most common country that has black people traveling in this country. So the first question is, are you from America? And we say no. And then the next thing when we hand in our passport, the new passport color is not owned by people. They know the old navy blue one, and they're like, no, this is not Kenya's passport. What happened to the navy blue one? Or they say they have never seen it. It's either of the two. They've never seen it. In one of the borders, they had to call a passport specialist to look at it, whether it's a genuine passport.
Authentic or not.
And we ended up, we ended up having a good laugh with the gentleman because he was like, I've never seen a passport of this color in my life.
It's interesting. The other day we had a chat with CS Tourism, Najib Balala, and he talked about the need for innovative and creative ways then to do tourism. And I think you guys will be placed in a perfect place to talk and build Kenya. To advise on what Kenya actually is seen as outside the world, or in this case, not seen as around the world. What do you think about that?
Yes. We've definitely had opportunities to learn new things. We've definitely had opportunities to see how people do things in countries.
Yeah.
And the things that we are so eager to bring back home. We share a lot. We share a lot on our stories, on our Facebook, on our videos. Share some of these things even with our friends who we know have an interest in some of the areas. Because we want to see Kenya do better, and there's so many things out here that we can actually implement back at home.
Right.
So yes, we would love this conversation with Vinta.
Well, Moya and Dos, what would you say was the best country that you visited so far, and which one has given you the most challenge?
My best country so far is Peru in South America and Malawi in Africa.
All right. Another question. So let's. Okay.
We had a lot of fun in Malawi and also Colombia because the people were very warm. The people are very nice and warm. Yeah.
Based on all of that, let's project a couple of months and say that Corona is over. Would you continue your trip, or do you want to come back home?
If weather is good, and we will definitely love to continue. But the uncertainty is what kind of worrying us.
Yes.
And just being stuck in one place for a very long time indefinite.
Yeah. So basically, you just want to go back shags.
Yeah, we would love to continue. We are actually praying that the borders open up very soon and we are able to go on and catch up on time. We had a plan to get to Alaska this year. If summer doesn't allow, we will definitely spend a little more time in South America again.
Okay. Well, Moya and Dos, thank you very much for speaking to us this morning. We wish you all this evening for you. We wish you all the best as you stay holed up in Nicaragua. We hope that the borders will open and you'll be able to make a decision based on borders open, whether you want to come back home or to continue. All the best to you guys.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having us. Have a lovely day.
Thanks, guys.
Your
You
final
too.
message. Speak to Kenyans. Just give us like some words from Nicaragua.
In Spanish?
Oh, well.
Well,
Okay.
go ahead in Spanish.
Buenos días, amigos. That means morning, friends. And hasta luego. Have a good day.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you and have a good day as well.
Thank you.
Asante sana. Those are, daring. It's a daring couple.
Adventurous.
And very adventurous. It's really sad to hear that after planning for so long, after setting off and having a good time so far, this can come and just
No, it doesn't.
sort of derail you.
No, it doesn't. It's just a different adventure.
It's a different adventure.
It's a completely different adventure. You hadn't
Yeah.
planned for it.
Yeah, but you're going to stay a quarter of a year in a country that you've never
Yes,
been
you
to
hadn't
before.
planned for. That's a completely different adventure. Yes. Nothing is really wrong. It's just that the plan you had before has to be revisited and has to be retuned. But
To staying locked up in your
Yep.
room an entire day.
for people who are adventurous, believe
will
me,
find things
their
to do.
mind will
Yeah.
do a jig and they'll figure out, okay, we are here.
A whole new adventure.
What
this
do
one.
we do now? Do next? Since we are already here, what do
Yeah.
we do next? And they'll
Yes.
find something to do.
Think of Kenya being a biker's tourism destination as well. Some of
telling
the
you.
things that Kenya Tourism Board could consider.
Yep.
It's 10 minutes to 8 o'clock. Good morning. This is the Situation Room.
Online, mobile, and on radio. Facebook at Spice FM KE. 102.5 Spice FM Kisumu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. In the room, you have Eric Latif, Nduoko, and C.T. Muga.
You know, one of the things that the immediate former Auditor General spoke of, well, he spoke about many things, but this one stuck to my mind when he was talking about the possible estimates of the losses that we have on a yearly basis as Kenyans. And he put it at $1 trillion. Now, $1 trillion is such a vast figure. I personally don't, how many zeros are there? 12, 9? I'm not sure, but
Yeah,
it's a lot of money.
12.
It doesn't really make sense until you can actually sort of like frame it in a way that it represents something tangible. And what came to mind when I was thinking of, again in my readings, is the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital had sought approval to build Africa's largest hospital. Now, the current Africa's largest hospital, is the Chris Hani this one, I always have a problem with this. It is Baragwanath Hospital.
Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital.
Yes, in South Africa. It has a capacity of 3,400 beds. The Moi Referral Hospital wants to build a 4,000 hospital bed, capacity bed. Now, in case you wondered where they want to build it, it's a place called Kiplombe.
Oh, that place.
It's Kiplombe.
It's Kiplombe.
People were told not to go there. See, people were told not to go there.
200 acres. They want to build it.
Whose land?
That land, I believe, belongs to the government. Okay? But before I talk about figures, Kenyatta National Hospital also sought to put up a private hospital, to cater for patients, but with it operating not like the private wing that it has, what they call amenity, but like a larger hospital that the entire hospital is now an amenity.
It's an income generating, purely income generating,
Yes,
no
and
social side.
yes. One of the outstanding things about the proposed hospital, it was supposed to begin this year, 2020. It was supposed to have a 500 motor vehicle parking slot. 500. That's fairly huge. Now, this particular hospital was estimated to cost 15 billion shillings.
Which one?
Kenyatta. Yes.
15 billion.
15 billion.
15?
15 billion.
Say it one more time for good measure.
15 b.
Pesa kidogo sana.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. Good. Okay. So pesa mingi kidogo. The one, the Moi Referral Hospital, 28 billion. If you add these two together, it comes to 43 billion. Two massive hospitals.
At only 43 billion.
Yes. Now, if you say, for instance, decided to put up two hospitals the same size but for public use, but the same size as the one at Kenyatta at the cost of 15 billion, all right? What you can do is build 5 more hospitals. 45. You still have change of 2 billion to figure what to do with if you had that trillion. Was it 100 million or 100 billion? It's 100 billion. These hospitals, as I've mentioned, if you put the sums together, these two plus 5 others the size of Kenyatta gives you 100 billion. And you need...
So we can put another one in the coast region as well. So you have one in Nairobi, you've got one now in the North Rift.
Yes.
You can go to the coast and put a similar
You can put
size
one in
hospital.
Eastern, you can put one in Central. And if you do the maths, if you talk about the billions, you get to 100 billion, not a trillion.
And you still have 900.
Still, you're at a 10th.
You have 900 billion.
Eric has understood it, you're at a 10th, which means if you were to replicate it, you could build the equivalent of the hospital that Moi Referral wants to build. Do the maths in the 47 counties and see how many hospitals you can build. There's a point I'm making here. When these figures are tossed around and you do not attach the figure to something that it can do, then it's just one figure.
It's just a number.
But consider if you had hospitals that could do that in every region. Kenyatta would breathe.
Completely, my friend.
Yes. And given the population, you could even build 2 or 3 other hospitals.
And these
like
are
Kenyatta.
large referral hospitals. Now
Yes.
imagine if we were to expand that, take it down to the basic hospital, right?
Yes.
Level 1.
Yes.
Primary healthcare.
Yes.
Say, let's put up dispensaries. That one Moi Referral can build dispensaries across the country.
Actually, it is across the country.
There you go.
Yes.
So you ensure
even
that
places that don't
this
already have such
will
facilities will get it. Actually, why don't you move it up to even health centers? So essentially, if you are saying that this is what we're losing every year, it therefore means that these are the life-saving measures that we didn't put on hold, but we kept losing with every passing year. And you see, once you build hospitals in 1 year, you don't have to build hospitals the following year.
Yep.
That's the thing. Once you're done, you're
done. You're done.
All you need to do is maintain and make sure that, you keep replenishing that which would run out. The hospital is not going to run out, okay?
No.
It's not going to be eaten at its cracks.
So that amount of money can now focus on something even more important,
in the next
equally
year.
important, like, say, education. You can move from there. Think about it. Every single year, if that is the amount of money that was estimated that we lose, imagine what it could do every year if it wasn't lost. Let's even be generous and say that we are an understanding nation and we understand that thieves must live among us, and put it at 50%.
So why are we not? If the three of us could sit around this table today and come up with that, why is it then that those then who are tasked with responsibility of coming up with projects like this for the government are not able to do the same?
They are able to see that. But they are also able to see what else 15 billion can do for them. See, that's the difference. Now, maybe when we come to from the top of the hour, City, you can tell us, what can you do with 15 billion as City Muga? Forget about it.
15 billion?
Yes.
What I can do?
Yes.
Not as CT. Hold on.
Not as country.
Not as not as
CT,
you, Muga. You're already smiling. It's nice.
If you saw, this is the cookie jar, 15, and there's nobody watching you.
In fact, they've removed the lid for you.
No, they're watching, but they've allowed me
They've
to.
removed the lid for you and said, "Oh yeah,
yes,
take."
When you come out of this break, you'll tell us. For now, remind us today's proverb.
Today's proverb: the best way to eat an elephant that stands in your way is to cut it up into little pieces.
The best way to eat an elephant that's
standing in your way. It's there, it's standing in your path,
cut
it's
it
blocking
up into
your
little
view.
Pieces.
Yes, cut it into little pieces.
Then a billion.
Yes.
So you get to 15.
15 of you. Hatuwezi kosa watu 15.
No.
Tupatie kila mtu 1 billion.
Yes. Billion gapi naingia trillion?
Yeah. 1,000. There you go. This is a situation room, is Kenya's biggest conversation. Keep it right here. We're talking about the cost of corruption to our economy, to our society. That's what we'll be discussing in the next hour. And also we'll be looking at what else is happening around the country. Remember, there are floods in the Nyanza region of the country. What's happening to the people in Budalangi? Good morning. It's 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
All right. Still the problems today that we see of some matatus still carrying more passengers that they should. There seems to be some traffic on Jogo Road. The bumps right around Poster near Likoni Road and the exit along Jogo Road heading towards Hamza. Don't know what is causing that, but it's likely to dissipate in just a short while. Apart from that, nothing much else happening around the city in terms of traffic. You're going to get where you're going in record speed, and unless something happens, then please do let us know. Spice FMKE on Twitter, or give us a call on 0719 012 600.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur.
Wherever you are around the world, even if you are in Nicaragua, in South Korea, in China, in South Africa, in Guinea, in Papua New Guinea.
Not Guinea-Bissau.
And even if you're in Guinea-Bissau, www.spicefm.co.ke. Also, you can stream our show on Spice FM KE YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. If you're within the country, in Malindi, 97.7, Nyeri, 90.9, Eldoret, 96.7, Nakuru, 96.0, 102.5 in Kisumu, Mombasa, 87.9, and Nairobi, 94.4. In the Situation Room this hour, we are talking about the cost of corruption and what we could do with the kind of money that we lose every year. City Muga has just told us the Auditor General's reports always point to us losing about 1 trillion shillings just
every year.
Misappropriated, mismanaged, misspent.
And what many
in other words, stolen.
Yes, actually, plain and simple, it is stolen. What many of us don't understand is these handouts that you get, they form part of that money that is considered to amount to 8 trillion. This money that people are throwing at you, giving you as a group of young people to go and disrupt a rally, it forms part of this money. And because it forms part of it and it's given, what you don't seem to understand is as you receive it, with that same hand and that same action, you're denying yourself the very things that are due to you. Because this is the same money that is supposed to build your roads, build your schools, build your hospitals, provide you with emergency care right now when you most need it, take care of the elderly. It's the same money. And you think you don't contribute to it, you do. Because you provide an enabling environment for people who would take this money and then use it in the way they do.
But how much of that 1 trillion shillings still circulates within the economy?
Part of
Cash in people's hands.
I don't think it heads that most people get that money. A bit of it may circulate. But Kenyans have evolved to the point where they believe you must build flats. First of all, you build a monstrosity of a house for you to live in.
So you buy land
which is the
from
equivalent
somebody.
of a school in terms of size and in terms of just capacity. Then, so that people can know. I mean, how else will they know that you're Mkubwa if you don't have a big house?
Of course.
Then you put up a building, a huge building, whether it's an office building, a block of flats. That's where the money goes. You only need to look at some part of what constitutes the leafy suburbs of this wonderful town, city of ours, to find many such structures which currently don't have very many occupants. There are those who argue a lot of that money went in that direction.
Yeah.
Now, it's not productive, though it could be, because
So people got employment.
yes, but the employment came to an end when the buildings were completed.
When the buildings get completed. But then
Yes.
the next one starts because, I mean, we have 1 trillion shillings that's going into all this. So the next, people are working in the building and construction sector.
They are.
People are supplying cement and the building materials.
They are.
There's somebody who owned a house in Kilimani, who was on a half acre, has now been approached by somebody who has some loose cash and given 800 million shillings to vacate. So money has gone into that one person.
Yes.
So it's circulating.
Not necessarily. A lot of people, if they're not building, they just keep the money. It's theirs. They understand that
In a safe somewhere.
Yes, and you can earn an interest on it. You know,
And those are the ones that were being dealt with by the governor the other day.
Yeah, because
how many billions were not returned? Some good amount.
I don't remember the figure offhand. The figure that comes to mind is the figure that the central bank gave the government. That one I remember.
That's the amount.
It's 37 billion.
That is it.
Yes, that's the amount that they gave. Now, if you look at this situation, the trickle-down effect that you're talking about involves work being created at all levels of society. But if someone takes that money and keeps it, or they use it for what you call conspicuous consumption, I had one car, let me upgrade
That's
and
another
buy.
one.
No, others. Almost one for every day. Okay? If I've grown-up children, buy them cars. It's conspicuous consumption. That doesn't translate directly into providing employment or some of the economic activities that boost, that helps boost economic activity. It doesn't really. It just gets lost. And then we discovered that there's safe havens where you could take money. Some of that money will find its way there. So it doesn't really directly help the Mwananchi. It doesn't. It actually doesn't.
It doesn't.
If borders were shut and avenues of sort of like putting money or putting away money were treated the same way that we're treating the coronavirus, then it would have to find its way into the community. You'd have to spend it. Because you keep it in one place, questions that you perhaps do not wish to answer may be asked.
You have to ask.
So you spend it. Okay. Now, the point is, 1 trillion is a lot of money. It is really
It's a lot
of money. Now, the things that it can do, not for a county. What is the budget that the national government gives to the counties every year? How much does it amount to? To understand it. How much does it? Is it 1 trillion? Is it just slightly shy of 1 trillion? Yes, but it's slightly shy. You're talking about the money that is allocated for every county in this country. That amount is the amount that we lose every year. And this is supposed to take care of all the 47 million Kenyans. So, it's not a complicated picture. It is not difficult to understand. It is a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. And then, so you see now, when we say things like this, and then if you look at the current times in which in which the country finds itself, I mean, and, you know, we talk about it here, we can also talk about it across board, across countries that would be in the same situation. Right? And you say, okay, there is money. There's money that's lost every year. So by the time that you have governments grappling, looking for extra funding, creating a fund asking Kenyans to contribute, members having to take pay cuts because this, that, the other thing is not working, then I wouldn't be surprised that you have a disgruntled lot as a population of a country who would then say, what? We're losing all this money every year. But still, when it comes to a time of crisis, we still have to be called upon to help
contribute.
out. Whereas if you want to do the math, it would be very easy for
This
the country
is
to
stuff-
be able to hold
it's
its
money that
people
we
up
could have
in the
had.
time that exactly. You would have been able to hold the country up in a time of crisis. I say it even easily. If all of that money being lost had been taken into account, or in some case not been stolen. So this is it right here. You want to see how it translates? The 83% of the informal sector that we talk about, upon which the country rests in terms of its economy today, who then would be in a very difficult situation if you went into a state of lockdown, for example, and were not able to earn anything on a daily basis. With the money that is lost year on year, every time it's read from the budget, from the controller, from the treasury, would be able to hold together an informal sector that would otherwise suffer if they were not allowed to go out every day to eke out a living for themselves. Let that sink in.
Remember, one of the things that the Kibaki government did with regards to taxes, they just plugged the loopholes. Plugged. Just made sure there was no hemorrhaging.
Reduce the hemorrhage.
Yes. Okay.
And you see how much, where it goes and how much it goes. So when you're talking about this new Harambe that we are being asked to contribute to, I've seen a story that the board had an e-meeting with the president yesterday, and where they discussed their terms of reference, and they also the CBK, not the CBK, the National Treasury has come up with regulations on how to govern these funds. This money will go towards basically buying the stuff that's needed to deal with coronavirus across the country. If you're talking about getting the PPEs for the medical workers, talking about getting medication, getting more ambulances to ferry people to the hospitals and all, this is what the money will be used for. Not to feed people.
Yeah.
I was trying to look for that story. I saw it in one of these papers. We're going to get it as we go along. But you see, this is, if we had done the right thing, we would not be needing to do a harambe. To ask the people who stole,
yes,
and those that didn't steal, to contribute towards money that should have not have been stolen
They'll
in
tell
the
you they
first
have
place,
loans.
and we have done something. Because, like City is saying, if you're talking about a huge, Africa's largest referral hospital being built at Kaplombe, and with how many bed capacity again, City? Was it
4,000?
4,000 bed capacity, and it was only going to cost us 30 billion.
In fact, let me give you the total. The actual total that the government disburses to the counties is 1.039 trillion.
1.03.
9 trillion. If you talk about all the money that the counties get for 7 counties. So you're saying that the equivalent of what we give our counties is what is lost every year.
So how much money do we have? So we give counties 1 trillion.
Yes.
Or part of it is stolen, and it contributes to this 1 trillion that we steal. Hey, that's a lie. You guys, me.
You know, that's the amount of counties plus national government when you add it all. Then the sum total of the national theft, okay, it's what comes to around that 1 trillion. Arguably,
as in the money that you use to run the country every year is being stolen. The same amount of money that is running the country is also being stolen.
Now, how ridiculous is that situation? Those who will say, well, some of the figures, they just haven't added up. Forget that.
That 1 trillion also that you're talking about, the Auditor General was not saying it's stolen. You're just saying these are the audit queries. Queries are responded
Where is
to.
it? Is it sitting in an account somewhere?
Queries are responded to. If you do not understand the procedure, of getting a car from the national government to a county government,
So ask them. They will tell you what to do. There are people who are experts in that. They'll tell you.
They'll tell you how you can buy a car.
They will tell you.
And you can also buy one car for the price of
procedures.
3.
Oh, they have.
You can buy one car for the price
And those
of 3.
procedures are documented. They'll tell you.
Oh, please.
If this is what you want to do, do this. They'll tell you. And that's why they can catch you out easily, because they'll ask you, who did you ask?
We were here. We have the information.
Yes.
Why didn't you come and
Did you
ask us?
consult?
But you see, this is where we as citizens also we play a part in this. Look, a road, one of the bypasses coming from Ruaka going to join Wayakiwe is going to cost us 30 billion shillings, a billion shilling per kilometer. You're spending 1 billion shillings per kilometer of road. You know why? Because people who own land around there are saying, this is my time. This is my chance to eat. This land, let's value it. How much am I going to make out of this? So that's why it's going to cost is going up to 1 billion shillings per kilometer. Now, if a hospital of 4,000 bed capacity can cost 30 billion shillings, and a road between 30 kilometers is what is let's say Museum Hill roundabout to right about Mlolongo and beyond, 30 kilometers. That road, 30 billion shillings. Makes sense.
Does it?
Does it make sense?
No, it actually doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. It doesn't. But then you're asking yourself the question and you say, okay, if all this money was used, I mean, just look at the broader picture. All of this money was used. A lot of it has been unaccounted for. And then you still have things that have not been done. This is what should cause a bellyache for people and say, okay, really, we've lost all this money and yet we're sitting here with so many things that are undone. So many things that are undone. People continue to suffer. Now, people are looking for money. And there's an Africa fund. There's a Kenya fund. There's a committee who've been put together to say, let's find this money. It's difficult to backtrack and it's difficult to say, oh, how I wish. But really, I think that's where we need to be. Had it been that this money had not been stolen, look, you can say whatever you want to say. Query, non-query, stolen. Had this money not been stolen, there are certain things we wouldn't have to be grappling with today.
Had the money been spent clearly, such that there's no query.
Okay, stolen. There are certain things that we would have been able to do with it today. Look at it. We're talking about now grappling, saying, okay, we don't have enough money. We don't have this. We don't have the other thing. We don't know if we're going to be able to. Somebody gets into critical condition in this country. We don't know if we're going to be able to take care of them because we don't have the capacity. Why don't we have the capacity? Perhaps because a project was supposed to have been worked on and the money was diverted, stolen. Then it was not sent to where it should have been. And nothing then was able to be done just because of that.
And we talk about,
it's very painful if you say that money has been dispersed by Treasury of 1 trillion shillings to develop counties over a year and the same amount of money has been misappropriated. What can you not do? What can you not do? And here we are.
Stealing it.
Again and again.
But I told you that money is circulating in the society. That's why we are okay. Because we see that money.
We're not okay.
Because we see that money.
Kenya is not okay. It's not okay.
We as Kenyans are fine with it.
Really, I think truly,
Yeah.
Kenyans are okay. Because
We
if you
are
were not,
fine with
you
it.
would be up in arms by now.
That's what those things of, a hospital can be built. If you go and tell Kenyans that a hospital was going to be built by the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital in Kaplombe, with Africa's largest referral hospital, they tell you, another scheme to eat our money. Wacha ibiwe na huyu mtu tunaona, and he brings it to us. This other story is another scheme to eat, and we don't know whether it's going to be given to an Italian company or to a Chinese company or to some funny company from other parts of the world, and that money goes out of the country. Wacha ibiwe hapa locally where we can see it. Right? 16 minutes after 8 o'clock, this is the situation. Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's have a look at the weather situation.
All right, partly cloudy in Nairobi at 18 degrees today. Weather conditions changing just a little bit. Likely to be maintained though. Highs of 27 and lows of 17. In Nyeri, it is sunny conditions right now at 18 degrees. Going to be a warm day until the rains cool it down in the afternoon then, with highs of 26 and lows of 15. Looking into Nyeri, mostly sunny this morning at 16 degrees. Highs of 26 and lows of 13. And then into Kisumu, where we see mostly sunny conditions at 20 degrees for most of the day, highs of 31 and lows of 20. In Malindi, it's partly cloudy at 27 degrees, thunderstorms in the afternoon with highs of 33 and lows of 27. Taking a look then into Mombasa, it's mostly sunny at 28 degrees. Thunderstorms also expected in the afternoon with highs of 33 and lows of 27. Take a skip into East Africa, where it's still quite foggy in Dar es Salaam at 27 degrees. Likely to go into rain showers later and thunderstorms to follow with highs of 31 and lows of 24. In Kampala, it's partly cloudy at 22 degrees. We'll see a high of 28 and lows of 21. In Johannesburg, it's mostly cloudy at 11 degrees. A chilly day today with rains in the afternoon and highs of 17 and lows of 9. We'll round it up in West Africa, and in Lagos at 27 degrees. It's clear skies through the day with highs of 34 and lows of 26.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Speaking about what we can do with the money that we misappropriate, the money that we steal from our own coffers, and City Muga is giving us examples. But that's how much again? That MTRH hospital?
Which one, the more referral?
Yes.
The 28 billion.
28B. But that's just a structure.
No.
Everything.
No,
Start to finish.
the contract.
Everything.
Man, 28 billion is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
but it can't
You
be
know, we're
everything.
just used to look.
used to this
Most
now.
counties get 15 billion for the whole year. They get
Stay there,
hardly
John.
20 billion. I mean, a county.
The county that receives the most is Nairobi, at 13 billion.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
You think it's not possible to build a hospital with all the trimmings and everything?
28
that you need
billion.
for
In this
28
country.
billion?
No.
That's what we're saying now. In reality, it is possible to build and
So
finish.
28 billion, a facility that has 4,000 beds, right? Those are buildings, right? And then the beds. And then you're telling me that you're putting in the equipment as well.
Yes.
And 28 billion.
Yes. That gives you an example of just how much theft takes place. Because a colossal amount like that is the equivalent of probably the money that some 3 counties get to run their affairs. You are saying that it's being put in one hospital and you're thinking it can't be enough.
Yeah, we've become so
Yeah,
apathetic.
it's-
Come on. We've become so apathetic that we don't even realize these amounts of money that are being stolen, really what they can actually do. Because it's such huge amounts that in some cases 1, 2, 3 individuals are taking away. We don't realize. We often say that the negative effect that corruption has on societies and governments and countries. Now, if you look at it, what if this money was being applied where it should actually be applied? What it can actually do? You would be surprised at the money that it would take to build a functioning road network in towns and cities across the country. For crying out loud, 28 billion shillings is not 28 shillings. It's billions that we're talking about that can actually put up a hospital.
Yeah.
From start to finish. It's possible to be done. But I think we've gotten to the point that we're so numbed by the amounts of money that are actually misappropriated that we don't realize just how much it is and really how far it can go in terms of what it can do. Unfortunately, that's where we've reached.
We've spent 63 billion shillings on the medical managed equipment service.
Which we don't have.
It was a managed... No, the equipment is there.
Which has not been used and
the
utilized.
equipment is there.
Which has not
the
been
issue is always
utilized.
being put into use, right?
Exactly. Has
and
not
this
been
is
used.
across the country. And not just one piece of equipment. Many.
And you know the
across
problem with
country.
and you know the problem with the mess? The mess with the mess? Is that a lot of that equipment has come in and 1, you don't even have people trained to use it. 2, that you find that equipment has been put in counties, for example, where they don't even have those problems. You have a dialysis machine where you need an electrolysis machine, for example, like in Laikipia, where they put dialysis where most of the people are not even suffering from kidney failure. They're suffering from heart and cardiovascular issues, where you need another kind of machine, and it's not happening there. Again, loss of money, whereby if you see that 20 billion shillings could have been used in another way, in another place, it would have made a difference.
So this 63 billion could have put up how many hospitals?
Well, clearly from the numbers that CT is giving us,
possible
two hospitals, 4,000 bed capacity hospitals could have been built with that money, with this equipment that is necessary.
And then after how long do you start repairing the equipment?
Well, look, even this mess itself, let's be honest.
So what we're saying is,
managed equipment services, for example, is not actually a bad concept.
The capex would have been 28B to put up the 400.
Even the mess itself the mess is not a bad concept, Eric. The mess leasing equipment is actually a very good concept, because then you don't have the responsibility of then disposing of the machines when maybe they're out of. However, the problem here was that somebody put it down on paper, didn't ask the questions.
They didn't map out the need.
Didn't do the planning, did not map the country and say, these are the needs. In Laikipia, we need more heart machines. In Machakos and Makueni, we need more kidney dialysis. In this area, these are the things that we need. Nobody did that. They just didn't ask the question exactly and then say, do we have people trained to man these machines? 1. 2, didn't even ask the question, is it possible for us to get it for less? No. All of those things, they just said, oh yeah, bring 63 billion. Basically out the window. Machines sitting there for 2 years. You don't even bring up the issue of maintenance, because how are you maintaining something that you're not even using?
Well, that's part of the contract. The supplier is maintaining it.
The contracting another issue. Why? Why should it be that way? 63 billion, those are 2 of those 4,000 capacity bed hospitals that we're talking about, whereby you could have a dialysis machine that could serve people over the 2 years. Come on.
You know, what you're right about, the issue of leasing is just that it's been abused in this country.
It's just, but people do it all over the world, and they do it, and it works very well. The people who bring in the machines, they come in, they maintain them, they go. You pay them a certain amount of money, and that's it.
When a new machine comes into being, they also present it to you.
Yeah, they bring the new one.
Yes, they do. And it's a really, really good way of doing things. Remember, many of the vehicles that the government uses for the discipline forces are actually leased. And that's one of the reasons why perhaps, you remember the old story of these cars were never functioning, they were never, because you'd be told, we don't have, fuel was the least of their problems. The car had this breakdown or the other. You know, that story ended.
Finished, died.
Because they're leased. So which means they're maintained.
Yeah.
Yes. So this issue of the police, for instance, having to maintain cars, remove it, that's not their business.
Gone.
Let people who actually sell you those cars do that job for you.
It's their job.
Yes.
And you always have proper working. Okay, so I've looked at this new hospital in Nairobi, in Kenya, the Kenyatta University Referral Hospital, right? Looking at the KU website, ku.ac.ke, they're talking about that facility, 650 bed capacity facility, costing 8 billion shillings. So now I can see, yes, CT, it's possible if we do this by 4.
You doubting Thomas?
Yeah,
if we do this by 4, we can get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that was Eric being a Kenyan, and we cannot.
I'm saying this is very little money.
Now that's what I'm saying. You've been conditioned.
8 billion put up a national referral hospital with 650 beds capacity. Swanky hospital.
They did just.
Very well done. Well, they're conflicting figures. KU itself is saying 8 billion, and I'm seeing somewhere else talking about 11 billion. So let's even go with the 11.
Let's go to 15.
Let's go to 15.
Yes, good.
Yeah.
Now tell me, with that money,
15 is double, by the way.
Yeah,
that's all right.
Yeah, it's okay if we're going to go with that. Let everything else be thrown in there.
Yes.
Planting trees and
beautification. Let's even throw in hiring a few staff and pay their salaries.
Yes. Okay. Let's even throw in equipment we don't need.
15B.
Yes.
For the University Hospital at Kenyatta.
Yes.
It's a teaching, it's a referral hospital as well.
With bed capacity?
650 bed capacity. The only little amount of money that was, being talked about with regards to Aurora and Kimwarer, the amount of money that you guys are talking about, it's only how much?
Only 7 billion.
Only 7 billion shillings. And it was not lost anyway.
And it's just 1 billion shy of that hospital that we're talking about now at Kenyatta. Right? This is the problem. Because
the money lost in Aurora and Kimwarer could have put up a 650 bed capacity hospital in another part of the country. Say in pick a
That
place.
with which we could have been using now.
Pick a place in Voi.
Voi already has a hospital.
No, let's put, even Nairobi has hospitals. Let's say it's a university hospital, blah, 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 teaching, referral, blah, big, because Mombasa has the former PGH. Let's bring closer to deal with people from Makindu can, instead of coming to Nairobi and going to fill up
Stop along the way to
Kibwetha
Twande.
Kibwana's hospital,
Put
they
it
can
there.
also be referred here from the level 5 Makueni.
You know, we spoke of health facilities that could be built, and we talked about a dispensary, and then we moved to a health center. If you were to find out what a health center would cost, an ideal one, I don't have the figures.
What's
with
a health center? What's the difference between a dispensary and a health center?
dispensary? The name even suggests it.
Dispense.
Yes. You need
It's an apothecary.
something of that sort. Essentially, they look at you, they determine
Something
and they
could
figure.
be,
And
there's
you're
some
given
malaise
very,
here.
very basic, you know.
Yeah.
Yes. Basic, fundamental healthcare.
Right.
And then you're given drugs. Now, when you get to a health center, it's not just what is happening, but the people who are there. The hospital staff that is in such a facility, because that's what determines even the care that they can provide for you.
Right.
Okay. Health centers will actually even have a doctor, medical doctor.
Right.
Dispensary may be managed by a nurse, not even a clinical officer, just a nurse is adequate. And you'll find usually the chief officers within a health center are actually clinical officers. But they offer a range of services, even up to maternity care
Yeah.
or mother to child care, all that. And they will even have, some of them even have maternity care where you can actually be hospitalized should the need arise. Okay? Now, from that level, you go to what they call a sub-county hospital. Now, that one is where now you will actually go for literally everything that requires medical attention, plus hospitalization, plus... but the lab care is also available at a health center.
Yeah.
But everything else, if you're talking about an X-ray, if you're talking about some of these advanced facilities, that's why if you go to one hospital facility, if your health care needs go beyond that facility, you're referred
They
to the
refer
next
you
one.
to the upper one.
And they keep referring you to the point where you get to, say,
The national
Kenyatta.
referral.
Yes.
A national referral should basically be having serious cases. This is where
Where the counties can't manage, or in the previous
Then it goes up.
with the provincial hospitals couldn't handle, you took them to the national.
And when we talk about couldn't handle, we're not talking about in terms of numbers. We're talking about now intensity
care
of
required.
care
the care
that's
required.
required
Not bed
in the
capacity.
cases.
No,
Exactly.
Not
This
to
is the thing
Meja
that
and the
needs-
Kenyatta.
No. It shouldn't be that way. But it
This
looks like
one we
that's
can't
what it
handle
is.
at this
Yeah.
level.
At this level, we need more expertise.
Kenyatta will have the facilities, it'll have the personnel, it'll have the expertise.
Expertise, yeah.
Yes, to enable you to receive the care that you require.
So you're saying a health center would cost how much?
I haven't figured that one out. I was in the process of looking at what a health center would cost. But the point I'm trying to make here is this. If you were to quantify what this money could do, or if you look at the needs that we have and what those needs would actually cost, whether it is, that's why I mentioned, whether it is schools, whether it is health facilities, whether it is roads, not all roads need to be tarmacked. Okay? All weather roads can do quite fine if they're actually built properly with the proper specifications.
Let's tarmac our roads, but there's money.
The point I'm trying to make is tarmac will raise the cost, and that road may not do much more than what a well-proportioned, well-built, so-called all-weather road would do. Yes, the tarmac aspect simply just raises the cost to some heavy-duty level. There are many roads that have never seen tarmac, and because they're maintained, they're okay.
They're doing all right.
You need to go to the tea estates, the tea industry, and look at the roads that you find, the road network. Very few of them are tarmacked, but they're excellent because they're maintained.
They're good roads. They
They're not good. They're beautiful. They're smooth because they're maintained.
Let it sink in. 8 billion shillings used to construct a new swanky new hospital, 650 bed capacity at the Kenyatta University. This is how much could have been lost in very simple projects like building of a dam or water pans around the country. Not even dam, water pans around the country.
Non-existent water
Non-existent
pans, for
water
that
pans.
matter.
Could have put up some healthcare facilities. Here we are now. We are putting up a fund so that we can help our healthcare system to help us deal with corona pandemic, whereas we could have had at least moved 17 steps ahead if we had done things the right way. 28 minutes to 9 o'clock. Let's take a look at traffic. The conversation continues. You can join in 0719 012 600.
Looking at where we have some traffic, a little bit of drama on Jogo Road. We don't exactly know what's going on there, but you need to be cautious as you approach. However, it's going to open up in a short while. This is what we've been told. It's bumper to bumper just past the Likoni roundabout. Hopefully that should open up really quickly. Still, guys, what's going on? Lots of people getting into matatus that are already filled up. Please don't do it. Just don't. There's a reason why we're saying do not do it. So if you're on a matatu that's over packed, please get off. We know why we're asking you to do that, and we want you to be safe. Spice of MKE, tell us what you see, and we'll see if we can keep people moving, and at best, doing so while safe.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's 26 to 9. Good morning. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Situation Room. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Eric Latif. We have Ndu Oko and CT Muga, who's telling us the cost of corruption and what we could have done had we not stolen $1 trillion shillings that the Auditor General, the former Auditor General, said how much is stolen every year.
But
1 trillion shillings basically just does not do what it's supposed to, what it was earmarked for.
What worries me even more than that, Eric, is the loss of moral currency. You see, with every reported theft of public funds, what I see us sinking into is a state of stupor where it is okay. Now that to me is serious because it then becomes a way of life where theft is actually considered to be normal. Theft is not normal.
Yeah, it has become normalized.
It's not normal, and it
become
should not be
normalized.
normal, and it shouldn't be accepted as normal.
And I thought about this because I said, it could be that as we talk about these things and we shed light on them, I think never has it been that a case has been presented where you see, here you could have a hospital where people could go and get treated. And in COVID times in which we are in, another hospital or a facility whereby it could be used to move away from some of the horror stories that we're being told about now that is happening in terms of treatment for people. Yeah. But I think it's necessary. And some would say, okay, it's happened. It continues to happen. Don't cry over spilt milk. Let me tell you, if we continue in this manner, continue the way in which things have been going, it's not going to be just spilt milk. You're going to have a cow that's not even going to be able to produce this milk at all.
Completely.
Right? Completely. It's not just going to be the milk pouring out of the cup. There'll be nothing left.
Let me go to the phone lines. Okech is calling in from Kisumu. Good morning, Okech.
Good morning to the members in the Situation Room.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Okech.
Thank you very much. I like the show. Now, you were talking about the hospitals. I think I should maybe tell you of my experience. I think 2 weeks ago, or it could be less, I went to a sub-county hospital here in Kisumu. It was around 3 p.m. and I found nobody in the compound except the guard. Yeah. And when I asked her why, she told me that there's not been electricity for the last 2 weeks, and for that reason, the staff in the hospital leave always at around 2, and even if they're there in the course of the day, they don't do much.
Yeah.
Now, I thought that was very unfortunate. In fact, I felt too ashamed to even share it with anybody.
So 2 weeks, why was there no power?
She just laughed and didn't answer. I don't know why. Probably because of the bills. I can't tell. Because electricity is general in the area, so I can't really tell. Maybe it was not paid.
It's annoying.
Now, if essence of politics in any democratic space is public accountability. Now, we know very well that of the three broad aspects of human development, that is the social, economic, and political, it is the latter that determines how the previous two thrive or how they don't, all the same. There's a biblical injunction taught by John the Baptist. He says that the axe is laid at the roots. Therefore, because it seems to me that political unaccountability is the sole cause of our failures as a people, I would submit that we should fix our political system to begin with. But how do we do that? You see, someone once said that Kenyans should be given a kind of governance, not only that which they deserve, but that which they need. If you look at it, Kenyans are undeserving of a good, responsible government.
Undeserving.
Why? Because we are undeserving of an unaccountable and people-minded governance.
Okay.
Because we have refused to ask for it. We are very careless about it. And when I ask myself, why are we generally not critical of the kind of governance that we have? I find a number of reasons. Maybe the first one, people are not informed. We don't know how much good can come from a well-functioning political system. I think people should even watch documentaries to see what Singapore, to see what Japan or individual states in USA are doing to economically and infrastructurally develop their country. Listen to what the players in those development committees are saying. Look at their passion and their love for the people. It is all about political accountability, and Kenyans should know this.
One reason is lack of awareness. Second?
We lack awareness. The second one, and I think this is very unfortunate, we seem to enjoy a free social environment, and so we are just satisfied. There is some aspect of liberty that we seem to enjoy. But if you ask me, we actually also don't have that freedom to begin with. The social media and the mainstream media, where people use them freely to chat their opinions, the political class has no problem with that. Because if anything, it serves them by giving them popularity. I know that there are some politicians who even seek for scandals so that they can still remain relevant in the public eye. You were talking about Waiguru this morning. Probably all those things are made up so that as you talk about them, they still remain in people's
relevant.
Views. They still remain relevant. But believe me, this government can defy court orders the much they please. They can impose on you an huduma number even if you don't see the necessity of it. And the big fish with billions of public money in their pocket money, they don't know anything about a prison because there's no rule of law in this country.
That will never take them to prison.
We never take them to prison. They cannot get there. There is no law. The law does not apply equally.
Okay, thank you very much. You actually raised some very good points, and I agree with you completely that I think it has to start with us. And until the point when Kenyans feel that, and that's why we were talking about this week, until the point where we start from our very own micro level and saying we are not going, we want to see a better run village, a better run sub-county, a better run ward, a better run sub-county, and then a better run county and country. We cannot internalize this. Asante sana, Okech, for your call this morning.
Okay,
Have a good one. Yes. There we go. I'm completely in sync with what Okech is saying.
Well, I think also to an extent, if we look at active citizen participation in good governance, that the way in which things have been going, not just in Kenya, but I think about Nigeria as well, that we've been enablers to bad leadership. We've been enablers to poor governance. We've been enablers to backward development because somebody might come and, you get into a position and then you're compromised and then you change. Or somebody comes out with the handouts and then we take them. Bribes on the road, we give them because, it's easy. Look, the road less traveled is actually the better road, unfortunately.
We complain about politicians in their absence.
Yes.
When they're not there, we are sitting there in pubs in places and talking about so-and-so. He's such a thief. And then that so-and-so comes, Mheshimiwa. Karibu sana Mheshimiwa.
How many rounds are you buying?
Mheshimiwa. We heap praises on them. So basically, we are not demanding accountability from them.
Why should I
We
be
talk
accountable
about
to
it
the
in
person
their
who's
absence, and in their presence, we will never discuss it.
Yeah, so I think we're enablers to that, and yes, it's going to take a total mind shift to be able to move from where we are to the next place. And until the people get to a point where they realize that the power actually rests in their hands for change, leaders, bad leaders, incompetent leaders are going to continue to take the day. Because they realize that, number one, you're not going to say anything about it. They realize that you also are perpetuating the practice. So really, upon what moral ground are you going to be able to stand on and point a finger at a politician or a leader who is going in the wrong way when you actually are also contributing to the process? It's going to be very difficult.
Very.
Have you heard the word hypocrisy? It is the software and the app that you need for that. And we are a fairly hypocritical bunch.
Yeah. We have it.
Yes, we know how we have the app. Whether you've downloaded it or not is just a detail, but we have it.
It runs in the background.
Yes, so half the time when you hear fingers being pointed, do you think it's with regard to what they are doing?
No.
No. They could be doing exactly the same thing, but as far as they're concerned, it's that other person.
It's that other person, and we have an opportunity to, what is the word you guys use?
To
put them in the light.
Yes, this simple thing like washing hands. You want the government to come and wash your hands?
No, and then you'll complain about the government not doing or not communicating enough.
Yes.
Not telling
Wash
us
your
what to
hands.
do.
It's not complete. You've been told, wash your hands.
Not providing water.
And you
So
know, you
start
want to ask
complaining,
yourself,
but where is the water?
And you
but
use
no,
water
but here's
every
the
day.
thing. You want to ask yourself, how do we contribute to that? We contribute to it because lining up yesterday outside a mall, everybody's told wash your hands before you get in. Before then, we now give you sanitizer.
Yep.
Somebody wants to come and dip his hand under there and say he's washed, so he can get through much quicker. And I said to him, "I'm sorry.
Surely.
You will go back and you will wash your hands." He was probably older than me.
He's
which
just
I
coming to do this.
Yeah, he's probably older than me, which I really don't care. But I told him, I said, "Look, my friend, it's you people like
Wash
you now
your
who will
hands.
spread this disease, and this is something basic that you've been asked to do. Then we want to point the finger tomorrow and say it's just the leaders
this
who are
government.
involved in poor governance, without realizing you don't have to be a governor to actually govern."
We are all governors. It's our. The way we've been talking this week, City has been telling us, "Serikali ni mimi na wewe." If it's Serikali is me, Serikali is everybody else, then what role are you playing in that? But it's about being woke. It's about playing our role at that level.
Eric, consider this. We go through these processes that are our right and privilege, like voting. We know, we even understand. There's a whole movement that seems to be geared towards this voting process called 2022.
Yep.
Okay? We understand all these things. And why we jubilantly hope for 2022? Because it also promises bribes. It also promises the very thing that we're saying undermines the things that we need for this country.
Yes.
Okay? But we understand it. Now, we don't seem to see our role or our participatory role in actually furthering the very, very demons that are now haunting us.
This conversation continues at 9:15. Stick it right here because we want to cross over for a bit to South Africa, Johannesburg, and speak to a Kenyan who's there. We know that Joburg and South Africa. University of Witwatersrand. This is Kennedy Otwomba. Keep it right here. It's 9:15.
Spice FM, Nyeri.
Well, the Situation Room, the conversation continues. Let's now cross over to Johannesburg, South Africa, and talk to this gentleman. His name is Kennedy Otwomba. He's an associate professor, perinatal HIV research unit in the School of Public Health at the University of Witwatersrand. Good morning, Kennedy.
Good morning, Eric, and everyone in the studio and all your listeners.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for
Thank
speaking
you
to us.
for having me.
You live and work in South Africa. You are in Johannesburg. We know the situation in South Africa has gotten to a point where the government had decided, look, everybody stay indoors.
Yeah, we are indoors, and today we are counting the 8th day. Let's be honest, the last time I stepped out of a compound was 8 days ago.
Out of your compound?
Out of the compound.
Right.
Most of the time we're indoors, and every other person is indoors. So, for example, in the complex where we're staying, the government doesn't even want neighbors to get together. I mean, the whole idea is to reduce interaction as much as possible. Hopefully, that will also reduce the chance of infections.
Is this order being adhered to across the country, from what you see in the news?
That's a very interesting question. Largely, yes, and especially in the suburbs. But I think there might be a bit of a challenge in the townships and in the areas where there are shacks. And, this is difficult because, some of these people don't have a lot of space or a lot of room. If you're living in a one-room unit, for example, and then you're told you have to be in a lockdown, you can't even go out and jog. It's illegal. I mean, you can't take your dogs for a walk. I mean, if you try to do that, you might be arrested. So it is tough. And in some of those areas, it's a bit difficult to implement the policy. But, nevertheless, people are trying. But I can tell you in the suburbs, it's extremely quiet.
Is there a general comprehension of the need to do this vis-a-vis what could happen if they don't?
Look, they need to do this. There is a fairly good understanding of the dangers of corona. But again, just like it's happened in many other parts in Africa, there is people that don't really think corona is a very serious thing. And this message is being reinforced as much as possible. And I mean, I must be honest, a lot of the population in SS seems to have taken it a bit more seriously. And look, if you go out, there's really no movement. It's very surprising. I haven't been out, as I say, but from one of my rooms upstairs, I can look outside and I literally don't see anyone. On Monday is the only time I took the dustbin out because garbage is collected on a Monday. And that's the only time I sort of saw a few neighbors outside taking their bins. But then after that, again, it all went quiet.
Right. So did any of this change? I mean, because we saw one day we saw 120 cases in South Africa. The next day we saw 400. The day after that, literally, we were at 800. And today, almost 1,500. Did it change in the way in which people did anything? And then was the lockdown welcome?
From a public health point of view and through a lot of consultation, it was thought that the lockdown would be the best solution, given that if you go to the weekend just before the lockdown, I think we started that weekend with a total of 202 cases on Saturday morning. But by Saturday evening, the number had gone up to almost 300. By Sunday evening, we were close to 500. And by, I think, Wednesday, we were way above that. And so what has since happened is yesterday the minister announced the numbers that have been tested. And what was actually interesting is, though it's quite early, but the number of cases coming up are far much fewer than what we've seen earlier. So it's early times, it's early days, but it does seem that there is, something happening.
Looking at the response that the government of South Africa has given to this pandemic, do you feel that they have taken the right measures at the right time, or are there some measures that you feel they have beaten the curve, or some where they have completely missed the point?
Okay, so I'm going to talk about this more as a public health expert because, my background is in biostatistics.
Yes.
So I'm going to look at this from an epidemiological point. I think the best way to control any further spread of this disease is through a lockdown. But you see, a lockdown is also tricky because before a government announces that they should go into a lockdown, there's many factors you need to take into place because it has a direct effect on the economy. And for South Africa, I think the biggest fear was if you look at the guys who live in townships, there's a lot of congestion.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of people that use taxis, which is our equivalent of matatus.
Yeah.
Now, without proper control measures, you can have this disease spread. And then additionally, remember, South Africa has about 20.4% of the population that is HIV infected. So the biggest fear is if this corona interacts with HIV, we might get, a way bigger impact. And so it's literally playing around the area of caution as opposed to just doing it for the sake of it.
You work in the HIV field, Kennedy, and our
Correct.
co-host here, C.T. Muga, has also worked in this field for a while. You're head of biostatistics unit at Perinatal HIV Research University of Witwatersrand. Now, having worked in this field and knowing that that this coronavirus is hitting hard those with pre-existing conditions, HIV, you've got big numbers in South Africa, just like we have got big numbers in Kenya and other parts of Africa. How do you see the response of the government helping, especially those that are exposed, those that are vulnerable at this point?
So these are the early days. And as I said earlier, the fear is, should corona come, into interaction with HIV, then it might be chaos. But the thing is, I think from evidence seen in Italy, the way people have died, and knowing that HIV reduces your immunity, it is very likely that, should it land on people that are HIV infected, it's very likely that, we might have high rates. And so what the government is currently doing is really trying to, put measures that are more preventative, because you just don't want to get to that point, because then it might just be more disastrous than we've seen even in Europe. As it is now, I also think the other advantage South Africa and Africa has relative to what's been happening in Europe is, I think in Africa we've had a lot of experience dealing with pandemics. If it's not Ebola, it is cholera or it is typhoid. So I think our level of preparedness is pretty high. Unlike in a place like Europe or the US, where they have a lot of resources, but I don't think they're prepared for this sort of pandemic. So for us, our weakness is our strength. That's what I believe. Yeah, it is our strength.
Professor, I'd like to ask two questions. Let me start with the first one. Of the numbers that we read in the papers, do you see a representation of these numbers in, say, some of the low-income residential areas within the country?
That's a very interesting question. One of the ministers the other day presented or talked about the numbers that, have tested positive. And the very interesting thing is the spread of corona or corona cases seems to be actually high in high economic areas. Santon, for example, in Joburg, and Bedfordview in Joburg. These are pretty high-end areas. That's where the hotbed lies.
Right.
And similarly in Cape Town. But you must also remember that a lot of the people that initially came with coronavirus are people that had flown in from out of the country. And ideally, this would be people who are, better off financially and can afford to go for trips. Like the first case was a group of people that had gone to Italy for a holiday and then came back in a group of 10. I mean, these are not things that a lot of poor people can afford. And that's why actually the rates seem much higher in high socioeconomic groups and not low socioeconomic groups.
And if you were to look at, say, the response that people have towards this particular pandemic, would you say that they understand the severity of it?
I think people are beginning to understand the severity. Initially, it was slow, but I think people are beginning to understand the severity of it because, like 2 days ago, we lost one of our top HIV researchers in the country to COVID. And, this is a person that was pretty much aware of it and, had tried the best to even seek treatment, but, it's just what it is. So I think now people are beginning to understand the severity of it. Initially, it was a bit slow. There was all talk that, we in Africa cannot get it, but, it's just not the case. It is happening now. It is hitting everyone.
Indeed.
Part B of my question, that was part A. If you are a biostatistician, so if you look at, say, the care-seeking behavior of most of the people who live in the, should we say, the lower-income residential areas, do you think that their care-seeking behavior would help them fight this virus, or do you think it would actually worsen the situation?
So the biggest fear is, and that's why awareness is being created amongst them, because generally speaking, a lot of them would be people that seek care in public health care facilities, but again, many of them are people who present to hospital when, their cases are a bit advanced. So based on their healthcare seeking behaviors, it would be extremely dangerous if it gets down to low socioeconomic groups, because away from the health seeking behavior, it's just that they also live in highly densely populated areas, and that is a risk factor for increased transmission.
Professor Kennedy Otombe from the University of Witwatersrand in South Africa, thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you so much for having me.
We are glad to keep you busy. At least we know that you're now in lockdown.
I am in lockdown, but fortunately for the nature of work that I do, I can work from home.
You're still working.
And so I'm still working. I actually work even longer hours because, you wake up and 7 o'clock you're on your computer.
And that's all you do. And listening and watching the Situation Room in the background.
Yes.
and reporting numbers. I'm doing some projections now for something on COVID, and it's quite interesting.
Great. As we come into the top of the hour and say goodbye to you, we'd like C.T. Muga to tell you our African proverb of the day.
The best way to eat an elephant standing in your path is to cut it up into little pieces.
Get that, Prof?
Yes. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Asante sana and have a good day.
Thank you.
All right.
You too. Thank you all.
Asante. This is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Good morning. It's 9 o'clock.
All right, those in traffic, which I doubt is anyone right now, being asked to maintain that space which we've been told about, and then also please wash your hands, and at the same time use sanitizers that are made available for the duration of your journey, and when you get where you're going, please wash your hands and change if you need to, but do what you can do, whether in traffic, out of it, or planning to get into it in the evening. A lot you can do. Not much on the roads happening right now, but what you can do when you do get into traffic. Spice FM KE is how you can let us know if there's anything you see, and that we'll make sure everybody else gets that information and make sure we keep it moving.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latt.
How much would it cost? Because it doesn't. We are not doing it. How much would it cost to put up a proper 1,000 bed, not even 4,000, let's not even go 1,000 bed facility in every county of this country? We know a
1,000 bed.
we know a 650 bed capacity was 8 billion shillings. That is at KU. So if we just went into 15B, right? 15 billion shillings can put up a proper, say, 1,000 bed referral hospital in every county.
Yeah, and if you do that and multiply it by the
Because the capacity of many county hospitals is less than 1,000 beds. Makueni, a very good, swanky, is 200.
1,000 beds. It's a massive hospital.
It's a very huge hospital. Do we need that anymore?
No, we don't actually.
For county? No, I don't think it's necessary.
So 300 bed capacity.
Look, remember, from the money that's lost, if you do that across the counties, you still have some change to fix the roads and set up a decent school or two.
No, do the dispensaries and the health centers and all that.
Eric has got it. You see, if you take care of these ailments at that very early stage,
there's no need for them to be referred.
Actually, if you take it even further and attend to these things even at the community level, this issue of people going to hospitals will be limited. Remember I told you that there were researches that were done in the country. Homa Bay, Turkana, ICCM it was called. Community Integrated Community Health Management System, right? It was an integrated system that tried to determine whether within the community you can get people to actually just diagnose certain basic things like diarrhea, malaria, and even offer treatment because it's straightforward. And what they found was that you reduced the attendance by individuals to any healthcare facility by up to 75%. Up to. Now, it means even the beds that we're speaking of will not be necessary. It will only be necessary for people who are really very unwell. Okay. Now, if you want to build a hospital of that nature, you have to give, and this is where Eric got it right, supporting health units that ensure that you weed out ailments that don't necessarily have to go to that level. But still, if you do the math, if the cost, say, 15 billion, 100 of them would be 1.5 billion.
We're not even scratching the surface of the money that's lost per year.
You know, there's a lot of money.
Yeah. Money is lost is 1 trillion. So you still have about...
No, it's 1.5 trillion, not billion. 100 would be 1.5 trillion.
Hey, it's okay.
So
then.
half of that, 750
billion. You still have 750 billion.
To steal.
No.
To misappropriate.
Lazima uachie wazee kitu kidogo.
To wet their beaks with. The point we're making is, and I think you more than anyone else understands it very well. The point we've made previously in this show is that we actually have the resources. If it can be stolen, it means it exists.
Yeah. If it goes missing, it was there.
It was there.
Yeah.
Something which was absent cannot go missing.
Yes.
Yes. So if you're talking about just 3/4 of the money that we say we lose every year in one way or the other, can put up that sort of hospital in every county. Literally every county.
Take that as a reality, and this is what we're talking about now. That, you know, we say, some amorphous things. Oh, okay, money was stolen, 63 billion, 100 billion.
And remember,
it doesn't even make sense.
Once you build these
that
things,
is how it can
you know, the following
sense.
year you're not building them again.
You're not building it again.
That's so that money that would have been lost now in 2021 now can go towards
You are
something
not-
else.
You're not going to spend it
Because
again.
You're not going to build hospitals again.
You don't.
Right? So
And if
now
they're built
we'll
properly,
assume that another
for several years you don't need to do any maintenance.
Exactly. So we're going to assume that the next year, another 1 trillion, let's go to another sector. And let's see now how we can make sure that food reserves in this country can actually make sure that we have food reserves in the first place, that we're food secure, that our food sources are sustainable over time, that you're doing research into looking at how you can do things like drought-resistant potato, and how you're making sure that your dairy is sustainable, and how you're making sure that in the time of famine, we have dams. Now, I'm not talking about the ones that are in the sky, real, actual dams in counties that can go towards irrigation of crops. So that, guess what? You're sowing, you're planting, you're reaping, you're harvesting every year, and you're putting them into barns. So that you're looking at technologies, which, by the way, are not terribly expensive, to make sure that things are done. Some of the best apples in the world, for example, come out of Israel, which is a desert, which need sustainable irrigation to make sure that they actually produce fruit. And they now, a desert, go around the world teaching countries how to grow produce from with little to no water whatsoever. Come on. And here?
By the way, don't even take it further. In this country, we have a government unit called CARI.
Calro now.
Okay, Calro. What those fellows can do will shock you.
Amazing.
They're experts.
I've been, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Experts.
Oh,
I've
man.
been, so
Agricultural
I hear.
research, livestock research.
Oh, they merged it with ILRI.
Yeah, they did.
Okay. But even if you were to look at ILRI, what those people know and understand.
No, ILRI is still there. ILRI is the
ILRI
international
still
one.
Yes.
So
But
this one was
the
local livestock research merged. It's
With
Kenya
the local
Agricultural and
agricultural,
Livestock Research Organization.
Yeah.
The
Now,
things
can you
those
imagine?
people know. Now, we're talking about capacity. Again, in this, we've said we have capacity. We do. They will tell you this particular seed can grow here. They have drought resistance, water resistant, God knows what resistant. You name it, they have it.
And they know they've developed the seed. They've even tested it. They have farms all over the country.
Yes.
They have.
And in this same country where these experts reside and exist,
Yes.
We're importing maize.
We're importing maize too. We have
Yellow
no food
maize
reserves.
for our cows.
We have no food reserves in Kenya, all right? There are no food reserves. My home country sent people from the middle belt in an area called Vom, where the dairy farming is vibrant, and said, now, we actually need to see how we can push this around the country. They came to Kenya.
They came
To
to
benchmark.
To benchmark.
They came here to benchmark. Only God knows what they took back. Okay. That's another story for a different day. However, what am I trying to say? That expertise is resident here.
It is here.
They're crying. I'm telling you, I went and I sat down and they cried. I'll tell you who. If you're listening and you want to know who is that cried, I tell you. They said, if we could just take that step from where we are, take a step forward and say, if we did 1, 2, 3, the issues of food sustainability, the issues of food security, source sustainability and security would not come up in this country because we know what we need to do.
I have somebody on the line. Ruben, good morning.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen and lady.
Good morning, Ruben.
Thanks for keeping us all sane.
Asante sana also for staying sane.
It's a chore.
It is indeed.
Anyway,
are you in Eldoret?
I am in Eldoret. Zero corona case here.
Zero.
Good.
Yesterday I had some visitors from the health department just checking on the compliance here. You know, do you have washing areas? And they had a question, do you have any visitors from Nairobi?
Wow.
There you go.
Wow. This is interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is a county directive for them to check out, because as an epicenter, then it follows that if you have any visitors, then it's likely.
We are the Wuhan.
Yes, we could be. And the strange thing, brothers and sisters, the strange thing here is, you know, Eldoret has a lot of athletes.
Yes.
And people who jet in and out. So to be talking about a zero situation as of yesterday, that is something, and it's something to look at. But I mean, thank God that it's that way. I don't think it has to, or may be that way for a long time, because we all need to be careful and all that. But I needed to make a point on this whole thing of corruption. Professor Muga pulled out my tagline there, the moral currency. That is really our problem. But I needed to pull out something that maybe you guys could look at, and that is corruption partly succeeds because it's international. That you know, we can talk about Kenyan corruption all we want, but it's because someone is able to steal part of this trillion and hide it outside, or transact with someone in China or Italy, or
Dubai,
the US, so that and so if you did a lockdown, an economic lockdown, you might be surprised. And sometimes I'm inclined to think that a lot of the projects or policy structuring and implementation here has corruption factored in from an international perspective, because then it's that much harder to catch it. You know, so you're busy chasing it here, but we hid it somewhere.
Right
So
from
if
the
you
planning
did
stage.
economic- Yes. So you know that in 5 years' time, this is what we are going to need, and so you project. And allow me to say something in jest, but everyone is entitled to their opinion.
Yeah.
Even the corona situation, at the end of the day, you'll still find somebody who benefits from it.
Bigly.
And yeah, well, it doesn't have to be local.
Yes.
But by the time, for example, someone comes up with a vaccine for it,
Yep.
who's going to pay for it?
Yep.
Right.
I rest my case.
They're already lining up.
I actually want to thank you very much for your generous acclamations. I am not a professor, but
I know that you
But
asked,
I will not. I will allow you
Professor.
the freedom of thinking of me as such if you wish. But I am not a professor.
Take it,
I know that you are not.
But thank you.
Mwalimu Ruben Kigame, thank you very much for calling us.
Asanteni.
And this
Thank
is the
you so
time when
much.
your music also comes in handy when now we're at home. Like, we ask the Lord to go with us. Tembea
Well, that's
nasi.
why it's nice to listen to Spice FM, because after the big talk, and I'm glad you talk about different things, not
Yep.
just Corona.
Yep.
And we thank you for listening.
have the music.
Yes,
Oh, it's the only way to keep saying for now.
Wow.
it is.
Asante sana.
It is. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Yeah, good day. Bye.
The situation with Kenya's biggest conversation. This conversation continues on a daily basis. Okay, you can also take it to our social media platforms, Spice FM KE on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube, where we're live streaming. And www.spicefm.co.ke is also where we are live streaming. Shortly, we'll be speaking to Dr. Mercy Korir. She is KTN's medical journalist. She's been with us throughout this season. She's here to respond to very many of your queries. Now, we also know that there are people who are saying, this patient 001, surely. Aye, really. Dr. Mercy Korir has interacted with this patient before. And we'll also be asking her what she knows of this patient. If you've got any question to ask Dr. Mercy, ask Dr. Mercy 0719-012-600, or you can post your questions on Facebook, Spice FM KE. You can also post them on Twitter at Spice FM KE. You can tag her directly at Dr. Mercy Korir, at CT Muga, at Nduoko, at Eric Latif. Good morning. It's 9:15.
It's crank up to 21 degrees in Nairobi and mostly cloudy in major parts of the city, most parts of the city rather. Seeing highs of 27 and lows of 17. Taking a look then into Nyeri at 20 degrees. It's mostly sunny. Chance of rain showers in the afternoon with highs of 26 and lows of 15. 18 degrees in Eldoret and mostly sunny through the day. Highs of 26 and lows of 13. Kisumu is taking us to 23 degrees at the moment. Mostly sunny conditions and it'll ramp up to 30 and lows of 20. Malindi at 29 degrees is partly cloudy. Thunderstorms expected in the afternoon with highs of 33 and lows of 29. It's 30 degrees in Mombasa and mostly sunny. And likely to experience thunderstorms in the afternoon with highs of 32 and lows of 27. Dar es Salaam is at 28 degrees today. Currently, partly cloudy conditions, thunderstorms expected as well, with highs of 31 and lows of 24. Kampala is currently at 24 degrees and partly cloudy, likely to continue this way through the day with highs of 28 and lows of 21. Johannesburg at 12 degrees is also mostly cloudy. We're going to see overcast for most of the day, highs of 17 and lows of 9. Finally, Lagos at 26 degrees is mostly sunny this morning, highs of 34 and lows of 25.
Spice and everything nice, everything nice.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Kenya's biggest conversation right here on Spice FM. My name is Eric Latif. My co-hosts are CT Muga and Nduoko, and our guest host for the season, Dr. Mercy Korir, who's joining us on the line. Good morning, Dr. Hari.
Good morning, Eric. Morning, City and Do.
Good morning, Dr. Mercy.
How are you guys?
We're
very well, thank you.
We are well. Are you well?
Oh, good. Yes, I am.
Good.
I cannot complain.
Very good.
Fantastic.
Some good news coming out of the government yesterday on this COVID-19 when we saw two people who have recovered. Brian and Brenda, looking very good, looking all jovial and happy.
Yes. Yeah, it was a good moment for me because finally I think we can start putting faces onto, patient 0, patient 1, patient 30-something.
Yep.
Finally, we can start putting faces in some of these things that we've been saying, and hopefully people can start seeing that this thing is actually here, is real.
Right.
So for me, it was a positive step. All the things around it notwithstanding.
What things around it?
Yeah. People are asking many questions about the authenticity of the stories, and so I do not want to comment and commit myself to that particular conversation, but I'm like, anyway, we've known them. We have been reporting as patient 0, patient 2, so I think that now the public has seen them. It's a good step, so let's accept that they've gotten well and they're going home, and they've gone home.
But why is it that them coming out raised so many questions and doubts? Is it unfounded?
I think, everyone has their own story and their own way to tell it.
Yep.
We've been telling it in one way. They have come out and told it in another way, and I've seen people poking holes on these stories and the authenticity of the stories. So it's their story. So let's see how it will pan out during the day. But there have been a bit of some inconsistencies from what we knew before.
And that inconsistency does not necessarily mean that they are the ones who are bringing the inconsistency. It could be that the person who was telling the story earlier had missed some points.
Well, let me give you an example. For the trip from US to Nairobi
Via London.
was via London,
Yes.
and it was a layover.
Right.
So I don't see how there was a train rides through London,
Right.
for example. Yeah. So So that one, it doesn't make any sense.
Indeed, it doesn't. Well,
Yeah.
let's see how it pans out. If there's
Let's see how
anything,
it pans out.
it'll be blown out of the water. This is Kenya.
Definitely. We've seen the social media DCI. They are on it.
Yes.
So we will get something.
We've been here
By the
before.
end of the
Stowaways
day.
have been
Yeah.
identified and found
Yes,
to be untrue.
exactly. Tutajua tu pole pole.
All right, good.
Some other bit of good news.
Yes.
I think people have been talking about masks. People in my what I've actually was thinking is like it's like people have been asking to wear masks.
Yes.
Literally, because of the fear, it's airborne, it's not airborne, and what's not. So the good news is that WHO will be sitting to actually have that conversation and give a direction on it.
When do we expect that?
They usually do their daily briefings around 10 p.m. Kenyan time.
Right.
So later on in the day, we'll know.
So we'll wake up
what
to
they
some
have
news on
concluded.
that.
We'll wake up to some news. So I'm sure they will consider data and any evidence from any of the countries that say that they've done well because of using masks.
Yeah.
And they'll be advised. But in my own thinking, after we had this conversation yesterday, reading around it and talking to people, I was thinking, anyway, I don't think there's any harm in wearing the masks. If it gives somebody the psychological comfort that they are protected, then people should wear masks. My only concern would be if people then become lax in
Thinking
in
that they are
observing
protected.
and being lax in observing the other measures. Because like what you usually say in malaria, a mosquito net alone does not prevent you from getting malaria. You also have to clear your bushes. You have to probably use a repellent. You have to seek care as soon as possible. So it's the same case here.
Yeah.
A mask alone will not protect you from COVID. So you also still have to observe the other measures.
Let's go
Hygiene, sanitizer. Yeah.
Let's go straight to the questions. I have Solomon who's calling from Kisumu and he's got a question for you. Solomon, good morning.
Good morning.
How
Hello,
are
good
you?
morning, Solomon.
Yes, Dr. Matthew, I have 3 questions for you.
Solomon, there's something wrong with your line. Please, would you call back?
Okay, fine. Let me call back.
Just call back, yes. So he's going to call back, and we also want to take any other callers. Anybody who's got a question for Dr. Mercy Korir, 0719-012-600. Some on social media. And
Right. So one question, Dr. Ari, already from the many. Who can someone who is infected spread corona if they don't have the symptoms?
Seem to affect you.
Sorry, Mercy?
So the question is, somebody who is who does not have the symptoms, can they transmit?
Okay, so the guidance from WHO has been that those that do not have any symptoms are unlikely to transmit. So unlikely meaning their chances are very low because you need somebody to actively cough or sneeze or to have come in contact with any of their respiratory droplets and touch the surface. So if somebody does not have any symptoms, their chances of transmitting is low.
Okay.
But then now you have people who do not have any symptoms, but they are what you call pre-symptomatic, in that they're in a phase where they'll show symptoms anytime.
Okay.
So the chances become higher. It's like on a scale. It becomes higher from asymptomatic, pre-symptomatic to being symptomatic. So it just gets more intense along.
Okay. So I have Zachary in Nakuru. Zachary, good morning.
Oh, morning, guys.
Good
morning. Good morning to you. Got a question for Dr.
What is
Mercy?
there? Yeah. And hello?
Yes, go ahead.
And Walimu there should not deny that he is a professor. He is in our minds.
He's our professor.
Yeah, and a paragon or I call him the doyen of wisdom.
There you go. Dr. Mercy Korir is on the line, Zachary, and I've got other callers. You've got a question for Dr. Mercy?
Yeah. This is the question that I'm asking, yeah?
Yep.
Or probably it's a proposal. There are these guys that we call discordant patients, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
whereby you find that somebody is living with a HIV positive person,
Yeah.
and he himself is not he's not actually being affected, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yesterday, as I was kind of thinking about this virus and the whatever damage it is causing to us,
Mm-hmm.
why can't researchers start actually using those patients to see now what can we do? What do these special guys have in their blood that makes them, resistant to corona? To virus attacks. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of thinking that I'm having. Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Masi will
Yeah,
answer that.
thank you.
Asante sana Zachary. 0719012600. Dr. Masi, you can respond to that.
Yeah, I think that's a good proposal. This being a new virus, people are looking at everything possible to find a solution to it. And I was seeing yesterday, not even yesterday, early this week, Johnson & Johnson already started their first candidate on the vaccine trial. So that's a good step.
Yeah.
In Singapore, they are looking at people who have already healed from coronavirus to see if they have any antibodies whatsoever in their blood that can be used to develop a vaccine or that can be used to, treat people with coronavirus. So these are things that are ongoing. Remember, this virus, we've had it now. This is a third complete month where we've had it in the globe.
Yeah.
So a lot of research is still ongoing. So I think the issue of discordance or people being affected by it would be also another point that scientists should look into.
Another question coming in from Paul in Mombasa. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning. I have a small question, and it's just a concern.
Yep.
We've been told you shouldn't shake hands. So my question is this virus, that the virus also come through sweat or something? Because why should it be hands? And if it's hands, how limited is it to the palm? Because we are only told to concentrate on palm and a bit of the wrist, and people are greeting each other by their elbows. Does it mean that it can't move to the elbow?
Right.
Okay.
Dr.
Right. So, Paul, your hands carry a lot of germs. If you wash your hands now and in the next 15 minutes you wash them again, they'll still be dirty. So your hands are carriers of a lot of germs. And for long, not even just for coronavirus, hand washing has been shown and proven to reduce diseases, especially diarrheal diseases in children and other contagious diseases, other highly communicable diseases. So your hands are carriers for germs because you're touching surfaces. If you touch your face and you've collected a germ from a surface, you will transmit it to yourself. If you don't wash your hands before you eat, for example, you do not know what you will have touched and what you will ingest as a result. So the whole point of washing hands is because we know that hands are carriers of germs, so you want to reduce them as much as possible. And the reason why we are washing with soap is that soap will literally break apart the coronavirus. So you will have reduced the chances of you ingesting or touching your face or touching surfaces with coronavirus, if at all you've come across. Now, the reason why we are concentrating on hand washing now is that, and two, as we said, there would be collateral benefit, if I may call it that, in that the other diseases that are transmitted from our hands will also be reduced.
The
so
other
it's
germs.
a win-win.
Yep.
Yeah, the other germs that have been causing diarrhea and other illnesses will reduce them because now we have maintained hygiene as much as possible.
Dr. Let's take a short break, do traffic, and then we come back and look at the questions that are coming in on social media and through the phone 0719012600. Keep it right here. It's 28 minutes to 10.
So being given the all clear for most parts of the morning, now that no traffic, or rather for most parts of the city, no traffic wherever it is that you look, less and less in terms of vehicles on the road, few public transport vehicles available. We're going to likely see heightened levels of traffic in the evening, but for now, it's all good. Spice FM KE is how you can reach us on Twitter. This is, of course, if you see something out of the ordinary. But for now, as has been since 6 a.m., it's all clear.
Spice up your life.
Our guest host,
Mature,
Dr.
intelligent talk.
KTN's medical journalist, is joining us on the line. You can ask her any questions on social media at Spice FM KE, Facebook, Twitter at Spice FM KE, and also Instagram, Spice FM KE. Solomon from Kisumu is back. He had a question for you, Dr.
Mhm.
Solomon, go ahead.
Yes. I wanted to ask Doctor 3 questions.
I can't hear him.
I'm saying my first question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing the notion that everybody, including the Western world, are insisting on washing hands with running water and soap or use of sanitizer. And my question is this virus real? Is the virus only concentration of the virus is on the hand or on the entire body?
One. Question number 2.
Question number 2. If people have been, if you've gone for isolation, like for example, I came from a Western country. Then I came to Kenya when it was a bit hot due to the coronavirus.
Yeah.
Then I decided to have my self quarantine for more than 14 days.
Okay.
Then I feel fever. Then I go to a health center. That one is less than a level 4 hospital, where we have call them dispensaries. Then are they able to give me the medication required? Number 3.
Without testing positive for corona?
Yes,
or?
without testing, because to my knowledge, I'm very sure that they cannot do the testing. The only thing they do is just to take the temperature.
Okay, so you want to be treated without testing?
No, I want to, I go to a facility.
Yep.
Then they check the clinical symptoms, and if for example I'm just told that this is just a normal temperature, it's just a mild fever, just to go back home. Then I go back home with probably medication, like just being given a painkiller, and I'm being covered with some antibiotics. Then I go back home. Then at night it persists. Which measure should I take now?
Okay. Question number 3.
Question number 3. I'm seeing in social media people are talking about hydrochloroquine, sulfate, and erythromycin. If the government, if for sure we've got the survivors, I'm talking about the 3 survivors of the COVID-19.
Yeah.
If the medication was given to them and actually they've turned out to be negative now, why can't the government, through the Ministry of Health and other partners, why can't they just come broad daylight and say this is what is going to save us? Let us now work on this hydrochloroquine
and azithromycin. All right, Dr. Masikarir.
Yes.
Okay, let me start with the last one on hydroxychloroquine azithromycin combination. So, as it is now, coronavirus does not have any known treatment, no vaccine, none. What is on social media, what is on mainstream media, because we've covered this story, is that there are WHO launched what they call the Solidarity 1 trial, where they have 4 different sets of medicine, and hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine being one of them. Azithromycin is not even on that list, where now they are checking. Different countries have come up to say we are willing to do these trials where they check if at all these medications will have any effect on coronavirus. And so far, that is still work in progress. So the government partners cannot come and say now this will save us because there's no evidence to it. Remember that we say medicines are a poison. So any medicine you take, you're potentially putting in poison. So what we do is to check the cost-benefit analysis. Is this poison more beneficial to you, or will it kill the virus and kill you in the process? So if it is going to kill the virus and kill you, then it is of no use. If it's going to kill you and leave the virus, it is of no use. If it's going to kill the virus only and leave you alive, then that is beneficial.
Right.
So as it is now, that is still work in progress. So
Okay.
there is no treatment, so we don't expect the government to come and say, we can use this. No. On the other question, where I think it's a hypothetical situation where you've done more than 14 days quarantine, you develop fever, I think everyone in the healthcare space has been given the protocols and the criteria and the guidelines to follow if somebody with a travel history gets a fever, and there will be direction on that. Yes, the lower level facilities cannot test, but now remember the Cambridge laboratories across the country have the capacity to test. So there is a network and there's a way they liaise with the laboratories for them to come and collect a sample and confirm whether you have COVID or not. And anyway, there is no treatment, and we know there are people who have managed the virus well at home without necessarily getting any treatment. They've managed the symptoms as they come along, and it is the same thing. Even the people who are in Bagasi or KNH or the other private facilities who have been confirmed to have COVID are also just waiting it out for their immune systems and for their bodies to fight it out. And as you heard Dr. Amos say yesterday, they do supportive management. When you have a fever, they give you something for that. When you have a cough, they give you something for that. If you're dehydrated, they give you something for that, because there is no specific treatment for COVID-19. So even that antibiotic cover is not actually something that people should be given, because now that poses a whole other problem about antibiotic resistance, where we are getting to a point where antibiotics are of no use to us. So there are certain guidelines and protocols to be followed, and for this one, unfortunately, there's no treatment. It is just supportive management.
There's a question here that it's quoting a report, one of the local dailies, that claims that the two Kenyans announced to have recovered from COVID-19 have gained some immunity against the virus. A doctor who oversaw the treatment of Brenda Ivy Cherotich and Brian Orinda, however, say it's not clear how long such immunity could last. Is this the case?
I do not know how they confirmed that they gained immunity, because they would have needed to have sort of introduced the virus back to them to see if they gained any immunity or not, for them to confidently say that they've gained immunity having gotten infected. So possibly, my own thinking right now, this is just top of my head, is that borrowing from what has happened in the global north, where there are people yes who have gotten reinfected, and there are people who haven't. So maybe borrowing from that, then the doctor would have said, could be they have developed some immunity against the coronavirus. But I would need more details and probably have a conversation with the person who's been quoted there before we can blow things out of proportion, because you have to be very careful, especially now, how we report this coronavirus. Because you realize when we talk about hydroxychloroquine, people buy them off the shelves. If we talk about immunity, maybe people would opt to get infected so that they develop immunity.
Or
so
even those that recover start becoming careless.
Careless, yeah.
Exactly. So I think I would ask my colleagues reporting on COVID to be really careful and think about the things that we put out there, because they have real consequences. And we've seen people, like in Nigeria, people are losing their lives because of some of the media reports that we put out there.
Right.
So I would urge for caution.
More social media questions for
Okay,
you.
so we're going to ask the next 4 questions as one, because it's more along the same lines. Even with COVID and staying at home and social distancing, then are people allowed to engage in sex?
Wow. This question, I think it has come up many times.
People are in quarantine, Daktari. What do you expect?
to they're at home.
First, I think, as we said earlier on when we started having this conversation, the coronavirus is not a sexually transmitted virus.
But then you're asking people to maintain social distance.
If both of you are not suspected, are not at risk, then I see no harm. Yeah. So this will now have to be individual or 2 people-based decisions, but it is not sexually transmitted, so people should not live in fear. Yeah, but this is a catch-22, so people just have to make their own decisions.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so another question, what do I do? I mean, maybe this is one of those other ones that we can't answer enough times because it still keeps popping up, Daktari. What do I do if a family member has symptoms that are likened to that of COVID?
Okay. I think the first point of call is to call 719 or any of the hotlines by the Ministry of Health. Then they'll give you guidelines on what to do, whether they will come for the person who is suspected to have the symptoms, or whether you can take them to a facility nearby, or whether you wait at home and see if you can manage it at home. So that one, the Ministry of Health at this point is best placed to make that particular decision or to give that particular guidance. But even while you call for help and expect help to come, I think the bare minimum is, 1, to maintain hygiene as much as possible. If somebody is suspected, this is a person who is a candidate to wear a mask, so that if at all they are positive, then you minimize transmission of the virus from them to other caregivers in the home. And then just to manage, if it's fever, the paracetamol would do, obviously guided by a medical professional on what dosage to give, and particularly for children. If they need to be rehydrated, you do that. But if somebody develops difficulty in breathing, then that is a person who should absolutely get to hospital as soon as possible. If somebody falls in the category of the most vulnerable, that is the elderly, people with chronic lung disease like asthma, bronchitis, emphysema, people with any other chronic condition, anyone who has had an organ transplant, like a kidney transplant, and therefore they are on immunosuppressants. Those are people who, if they develop any symptoms, they should go to the nearest health facility as soon as possible. That's not somebody who should wait at home and wait for help, because we know right now, and we've seen from the West, help does not always come as fast as possible. So that may be somebody to quickly rush to hospital. Yeah.
Okay, another one. I'm scheduled to have surgery within the next week. Nothing else is wrong with me. Should I cancel the surgery now that we are being advised not to go to hospital if we don't have symptoms? Do I cancel my surgery or do I go ahead with it?
I know the Ministry of Health had cancelled all elective surgeries, any regular clinics, and the medics, the dentists were just supposed to attend to emergencies or urgent situations and COVID-related complications. And I think people on cancer treatment who are scheduled, those ones were supposed to still continue. So I think now this is a conversation this person should have with their doctor, because the electives, anything that is what you call a cold case, anything that is not urgent, anything that's not an emergency, were all cancelled or were all postponed. And I know doctors that have actually postponed some of their cases and things they are scheduled to do until when things are a bit better. So this is a conversation they should probably have with their doctor and also with their hospital that they are scheduled to go to. But the advice is if you do not have anything that is urgent, you do not need to go to hospital at this point.
Let's take another short break, Dr. Ari. Have a sip of water. I hope you have some water next to you. Have a sip of water, and then we take some calls, 0719-012-600, and some more questions coming in on social media at Spice FM KE on Facebook and Twitter, and also Spice FM KE on Instagram. It's 12 minutes to 10 o'clock. Good morning.
Stream your favorite show on Spice FM, live online. Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
With Ask Dr. Mercy right here in the Situation Room, and many questions coming in, Dr. Terry. The next one that we have, a little bit worried about the information on handling cash as regards COVID-19, given that a lot of transactions are still done in cash. Could you please shed some light on this?
So cash, like hands, carry a lot of germs. And that's why the president himself asked guys to avoid cash transactions as much as possible. So I think where they can be avoided, it should be avoided. Remember last week we had a concern, and actually we didn't even have an answer for this. There was a guy who called us about now when people send money, so when he's going to replenish his goods, then he's short of a certain amount because of that. So there are all those concerns, but the advice is that avoid using cash or cash transactions as much as possible, because I don't know if you can sanitize cash, or if I do not know how you can even do that, because you will have washed your hands, sanitized your hands, but then now you'll touch money and you'll transfer whatever germs are on the notes or on the coins onto your hands. So it's avoid cash as much as possible. Where you handle cash, you make sure you wash your hands as often as possible. You use sanitizer if you do not have soap and water as much as possible.
Okay. Another one, question for Dr. Mercy Korir. Why is no one talking about the possible reinfection to those who have already recovered?
I think we are talking about it. I don't think it's fair to say we are not talking about it. And not very clear anyway, even globally, because we are seeing some data from China saying a certain percentage got reinfected. So we're still learning along the way.
What would we advise, though, in this case, Dr. Ari? If we're looking at, so of course, with what we saw yesterday, 2 people coming out having recovered, and the third previously, are they to follow the same protocol that everybody else now?
Definitely. Social distancing, maintaining hygiene, cough etiquette, all of those things, it still applies to each and every other person, until when we are very sure that this virus behaves in a certain way or does not behave in a certain way, then some things can be lifted. But for now, everyone is as susceptible as the other person until when this thing is, when we have a full understanding of what this virus is.
So it's not like the chicken pox, where if you had it once, that your likelihood of you getting it again,
good to go.
At the moment there's no evidence to that. So the best thing is observe all these other measures like everyone else.
All right.
Yeah.
Another one. We have pets in our home. We have 2 dogs, and we keep them in the house. During these COVID times, should we get rid of them? There's a suggestion that we should take them to a kennel.
Wow.
Do they
Please
have
keep
butts?
your dogs.
I don't know.
No, these are dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I think keep your dogs. I think infection in animals has been very low. I think so far there's only been a report of 2 dogs that contracted COVID-19. So it's the infection on them is low. I think the thing is to make sure they are also clean, so that if they jump up and about on surfaces and whatnot, those surfaces are still clean, so that they do not jump on surfaces and then the surfaces are contaminated. And then on their paws, for example, if it's cats or whatever dogs touch, then you touch them and then it transfers back to you. So I think if the hygiene in the house is well maintained, then the dogs, in my opinion, have no issue whatsoever.
Have no cause to worry.
Yes, the dogs are fine.
Bernard is calling in from Nairobi with a question. Good morning, Bernard.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning,
We're fine,
Bernard.
thank you.
Fine, thank you.
Yeah. Today I have 2 things. One, I just had the Kari talk about the issue of handling hard currency. We run an online payment platform, and the statistics that we've had over a period of about 2 years is that the reality is Kenya is a cash economy. And chances of that changing soon are very hard, because not very many people are knowledgeable or have access to cashless payment systems. So that is something that we need to worry about, and probably Daktari should tell us how then we can be able to sanitize this money.
All right.
Yeah, the other thing is still on the same issue of coronavirus. I saw an article in yesterday's paper about, I don't know whether anyone of you saw it, about the fortunes of fishermen.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the misfortune that they have now because of the curfew.
Yeah.
I think the government should recognize that fishing is food production. And in my knowledge, I know most fishermen go out to fish at night. So the government should take measures, probably get these guys registered, get everybody in the industry registered. They know each other. They know them. I'm sure even the Minister of Fisheries know who is a fisherman, who is not, because they have their associations and all that.
Yeah.
Get them all tested, and then probably give them licenses or issue licenses to them so that they are able to go out during the curfew hours and fish, so that they can create their fortunes during this time that a lot of people are having misfortune. Probably that is something that would add on to our economy.
True. Good point. Thank you very much, Bernard.
Yeah, so that's my contribution for today.
Daktari, how can we wash money?
When you say wash money, it has a different connotation.
I know, wash, but that's not what I meant.
Wash. Quite frankly, I don't know how. I could try and see.
Somebody called in somebody had called in, and actually we were not able to take her on air the day when one of the traders had called and raised their concerns about handling cash. And she was saying she had a suggestion. I think she called from Malindi, and she had a suggestion: when you get to the house, wash the coins that you have.
Okay, I think coins are easy to deal with. You can wash coins or you can sanitize.
Yeah.
But it means everyone has to do it.
Yep.
Yeah. So because if I wash and then give out and then I'm given change, how clean is the other money that I'm being given?
Yeah, you keep washing.
So I find this, So unless everyone now, we say, now let's all wash our money.
Yeah.
Right.
Or let's all sanitize all our monies. I don't know. This one, I don't have an answer for it.
Okay. Doc, we are coming to the end of the show. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
More questions will come your way in the course of the day, and tomorrow you'll be able to answer them.
Yes.
Have you heard today's proverb?
I'm waiting to hear it.
The best way to eat an elephant standing in your path is to cut it up into little pieces.
Okay.
Okay, indeed.
if you say so.
If I say so.
That's the way.
Deal with your
I thought you were going to ask, is it before or after I've run away?
No, today I've decided to see beyond it. Because I'm like, okay, who is this who is eating an elephant who's standing?
Right.
That's why it's a proverb. You shouldn't take it literally.
Yeah.
So your translation of that is what? Pambana na hali yako?
Pole pole.
Pole pole.
Bit by bit. Yes.
Right.
Kidogo kidogo. You cannot take it in one full swallow. Pole pole.
True. Yeah. Very good.
Have a good day, Daktari.
Thanks, Daktari.
You too. Have a good one.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Give now the full context of that.
Well, you know, one of the things that perhaps bedevils us, even as we keep discussing coronavirus, is that it's one huge problem amidst other huge problems. So if you refer to all of them as an amalgam of problems, that's a mighty big elephant. But if you look at each of these problems, each of these issues, if you segregate them and you compartmentalize them, then each of them can be tackled. Each of them will have a solution that can be worked out, and an end to it will be successful. But if you look at it as one continuous big problem, then it will be impossible to see the path. It will be impossible to see even the possibility of a solution. And that, I think, even applies to our day-to-day lives. When you look at, say, the treatment of patients who are HIV positive, it's the principle you followed. You deal with the opportunistic diseases. That which is exhibiting and causing the problem, deal with that one.
Deal with that one.
As you deal with the other, but deal with that one and make sure it doesn't exist. Yes.
Approach your problems piecemeal.
Yes.
You eat the whole thing.
I love it.
Kula ugali kutoka pande moja.
Na usikule sahani.
Usikule sahani. Thank you very much for tuning into the Situation Room today. Join us again tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Nduo call, CT Mugana, Merrick Latif. Now until 2 o'clock. Uninterrupted music, sugar and spice and everything nice. And then Monique will be here to take you home on Spice Drive from 2 to
6 p.m.
6 p.m. And then the adults in the room will be here thereafter. Good morning. It's 10 o'clock.